February 24th, 2026. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Adler.
Here.
Councilmember Duenat.
Present.
Councilmember Veros.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rubio.
Here.
And Mayor Armstrong.
Here. All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Please be seated. Glad you could join us this evening. I know we got the State of the Union going on tonight, and as clerk mentioned earlier, for those who are here, we're rolling out a new agenda system and a new voting system tonight. So we're the first guinea pigs for this new system. So we're excited about that. So let's go on to item 3, announcements. Madam Clerk, any announcements?
Item 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. There are none. If you wish to speak under public comments or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk.
Okay, item 4, public comment. At this time, public is permitted to address the city council on any non-agenda item related to the business of the city council. Items that are on the consent calendar, including a request to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. Please note that the decision to remove the item from the consent calendar is strictly at the discretion of the city council. You can speak on requests for future agenda items or items that are not on the agenda but are still within the city council's jurisdiction. Please be reminded that while the city ensures the First Amendment rights of its citizens, we do not accept nor endorse any offensive or hateful comments made during our meetings. The city celebrates the diversity of our community, and we strive to be a welcoming and open community for all. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And just as a note, we will soon, in a few weeks, be installing new timer cameras. One will be back behind me underneath the camera, and then one will also be on the front of the podium for the council to see, or the commission. And but for tonight, the countdown for the 3-minute time will be shown on the speakers to your left and to your right, not speakers, on the screens to your left and the right. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on the meeting agenda. The city council does take them very seriously, however, and if appropriate, staff will follow up. Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do. We've received 2 speaker cards. Our first speaker card is from America is Great Again.
Okay. Evening.
Good evening. I'm here today, even though America is great again, but the city of San Ramon is in a mess. I was very surprised when I went to the finance committee meeting where our finances are really messy. There were spendings that were not accounted for, and at the end, it is the same song again, where the staff will ask the 2 council members on the committee to waive their mistakes so that we don't get to hear it or really understand it, and then you guys pass it here under consent. I would like to ask the city council to please agendize review for public comment against, because you're violating the Brown Act by forcing everyone to pull consent agenda under public comment, which is on subject matter that is not agendized. You're definitely violating my right under the California Brown Act to force me to forfeit 3 minutes that allows me under agenda 5, but now under agenda 4. So you're compacting my 6 minutes into 3 minutes instead. So I have a lot to talk about that I won't have time to cover. So I have to speak really quickly. I would also like to ask a city council to please refrain from scheduling the city council meeting in the future when there is a State of the Union on Tuesday. That Tuesday, you should not have this meeting so that we can all enjoy joining everyone else in the country to celebrate the State of our Union. I would like you now to please pull agenda under consent 5.2 and 5.5 for the reason that 5.2 was not even approved by the two council members at the last finance committee. You guys cut the meeting short because people didn't want to continue the meeting. So you guys didn't even finish the entire meeting. So that was not approved. So then it is a fraud for you guys to agendize it here and asking the three other council members who were not there to just approve it as a blanket. I would also like you to please pull 5.5 because we are having major issue of proper accounting. I suspect that there are embezzlement. And so I have lost confidence under the leadership of our manager, Spadowski. He is going to be managing $120,000 of our federal tax money allotted to our city under transportation. I don't have confidence that he will be able to manage it well. And the report that I read online was a mess. It was not transparent. You need to please pull it out, agendize it at the next future meeting so that we can all understand what you guys are doing for the heck of our country. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jim Blickenstaff.
Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. I have something I want to bring up. I think it's a kind of an important issue, maybe urgent, but it's something I've mentioned in the past quite often. And it has to do with prioritizing parks. That's a key aspect of quality of life. And sometimes you can't really solve the F traffic that's going to happen on the on-ramps and off-ramps to Bollinger or school issues. Some of these things are just what they are. But I think one thing that's very doable for the city council is to tackle the parks issue in a way that is proactive. And when I say proactive, I mean in the sense of parks opportunity sites, for example, because we always hear about unit housing opportunity sites, and that's a huge priority, and it comes from the state and the lobbyists from the state, but their priorities are pretty self-focused, and they don't really care about necessarily quality of life. That's an afterthought. So I'd say we have the chance as a council to be active on that and to take it seriously to the point where we start to look at fees that actually buy land. Because my understanding from my experience is that the fees don't necessarily have to purchase land. They can do other things. And so a lot of times you don't see acreage materializing from the fact there's a park fee. So I'd like to see a study of that and then also combine that with study of available land, because it's time to look at that for long term. We have a big long-term plan, 30, 40 years. Making sure we keep up with parks should be a big part of that. So I think that's something the city can tackle, and it's not going to be cheap, obviously, but I think we can solve it as a city if they get active on it, and it's not just afterthought almost after you put in all the housing. So that would be something that would be a resolution or whatever you might do here for the city to get that moving. And just a quick example, I understand there's 2 acres next to the MUD's property site, and that would add community park. And that would be actual land that would go to community park that might be part of the fee structure or some other issues. But that's an example of things that the city could look at now rather than trying to do something later when the land's more expensive and it just gets all a lot more difficult. So that's the issue for me, and I mentioned this to the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago, and I'd like to bring up the same subject with you because I think it's something the city could be active on as a quality of life issue for the citizens, and I know I'd appreciate, and most of the citizens would too. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next speaker, please.
There are no more speaker cards and no written public comment was received.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then I'll close the public comment, and we're on to item 5, the consent calendar. We heard a request to pull items 5.2 and 5.3. Do any city council members, I'm sorry, 5.5, do any city council members wish to pull either these items or any other items on consent calendar?
I move consent calendar for approval. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Rose, second by Vice Mayor Rubio. Any discussion on this? Okay. Okay. All right. Has everyone voted?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Consent calendar passes unanimously. We will move on to item 6, special presentations. There are none. Item 7, deferred consent items, none. 8, unfinished business. There is none. And we're on to item 9, new business. And we'll start off with 9.1, John Muir Health Update. And we're going to get a presentation by Ashley Horner. Please come forward to the podium. Tell us all about John Muir.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. Thank you, City Council, for having us. Hello, my name is Ashley Horner. I'm the Executive Director for John Muir Health of Primary Care and Transitions of Care, and which includes our urgent care service line, all of our primary care, so family practice, internal medicine, pediatrics, and endocrine. So I do operations for that across the Bay Area, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you. I wanted to start off by sharing that not everyone knows about us. We are not-for-profit and locally governed, community-based. We provide exceptional care close to home in our backyard, and we are an essential service provider for all, including Medi-Cal. And most importantly, we are an anchor for our community. As many of you know, we care for patients across Contra Costa County, but also span in Alameda and Solano counties as well. We have 2 main hospital campuses, one in Concord and one in Walnut Creek, as well as our acute care psychiatric hospital in Concord. And right down the way is, of course, our partner, San Ramon Regional Medical Center. And we have many outpatient centers that are a one-stop shop for care, including our most recent shining gem, our San Ramon Outpatient Center, which is at Bishop Branch 15. Some of you were able to tour it. Thank you for coming. And within our footprint, at our outpatient center at BR 15, we also have urgent care services, and we are here to provide same day and next day care for our community, and we are open every day of the year. So, speaking of our San Ramon Outpatient Center at BR 15, this is a photo of a very momentous occasion, our ribbon cutting with many of you in the room and my colleagues. And of course, we need to give the San Ramon Chamber of Commerce a shout out for orchestrating the ribbon cutting and letting us borrow their giant scissors. And since this event, I am very excited to share that I have been added as a new member of the Board of Directors for San Ramon Chamber. So many more ribbon cuttings to come for me. And here is our new San Ramon Outpatient Center at Bishop Branch 15. We are located at 12677 Alcosta Boulevard, and our partner, San Ramon Regional Medical Center, is right across the way from us. And just to give you an idea of patients served since we opened in April of 2025, we've cared for roughly 100,000 patients, averaging about 10,000 of your San Ramon community members a month. And John Muir Health, with the opening of our San Ramon Outpatient Center and our Pleasanton Clinic, John Muir Health is committed to serving San Ramon and the greater Tri-Valley. Over the next 10 years, John Muir is committed to over $150 million specifically to this area. And if everything goes as planned, we will also be able to support a phase 2 expansion at the Bishop Branch 15 location, which will expand our services in many areas, including CT and MRI for the community, and many specialty services that we don't hold their current state. I wanted to share this slide to really showcase some of our community partners and also share that it is through our partnerships that we are able to address social determinants of health, such as food insecurity and access to healthcare. But as a healthcare organization, we have been getting a lot of questions about challenges that will impact all of us in one way or another, and unfunded state seismic safety mandates, underfunding of Medicare and Medi-Cal, and cuts coming out of HR 1, all of which will impact the affordability of healthcare services. And so where does that leave us? What I really want to convey is that this impacts, the impacts of HR1 are not unique to John Muir Health or just to our Medi-Cal population. We will all be impacted by the ripple effect of these changes across the community. And with reduced Medi-Cal enrollment and revenue constraints, we will see an increased number of uninsured patients not able to obtain preventative care. And what this will do, it will swell our ER volume and increase wait time across the board with sicker patients in the hospital staying longer. So that strains our bed capacity. In current state, we're in a state of surge even today. If all parts of HR1 are enacted, JMH will stand to lose over $300 million in revenue, and our working families will see their insurance premiums rise. And this will happen in conjunction with rising labor costs, which is estimated to increase by 30% over the next 5 years. And that, coupled with the $2 billion unfunded state seismic compliance cost, will really impact the entire community. So as the prior slides make clear, we live in an increasingly uncertain and divided time, and the challenges shaping healthcare today are larger than any one institution, and we're all involved. They place unprecedented pressures on our healthcare systems and their boards and management teams. These challenges threaten the stability of markets and businesses and health systems like John Muir Health that form the essential threads in the fabric of our local communities on which thousands of people rely for safety and employment and medical services. And many of these challenges come from entities over which we have little or no control, and they can feel at times like cross currents that can pull even the most resilient organizations off course. But the truth is that we have the power to make positive and lasting change, and we may not control the storm, but we do steer the ship. And in moments like these, clarity of purpose is more important than ever. So grounding our work in that purpose focuses our efforts on those areas for which we have control and that are essential to achieving John Muir Health's mission of improving the health of the communities we serve with quality and compassion. So just as I started with this message to you all, John Muir Health is an essential community asset that is committed to serving this community with quality and compassion. And I'm so proud to have our Bishop Ranch 15 San Ramon Outpatient Center here for you all. So with that, I know that we have a packed agenda and we will take questions, and I'm happy to bring those back to my team and get those answers for you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Let's go with questions and then we'll go to public comment and then we'll see if there's any wrap-up comments for the council. But for now, let's just stick it to questions for Ashley.
Ashley, thank you for the presentation. Real quick on slide 6, you mentioned if everything goes to plan, we'll be able to grow John Muir Health, and with our expanding population and the growth around the area. What does that mean, everything goes to plan? Exactly.
I think it really has to do with our board and what direction we're going to go. We have all the plans, and we've been working on this for years and years and years. So way before HR1 came into our laps, this was a plan for us strategically. And so it would expand our footprint, and really we just need to get some last checks and balances done on our side to be able to move forward. But that's where we stand right now.
Has there ever been a moment where the city or has been helpful, has not been helpful? And do you think we could improve somewhere?
Not that I'm aware of. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and we feel the support from you all. So if I hear otherwise, I'll be sure to bring it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, all right, Councilmember Adler. Anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any plan other than wait for a new Congress to, to deal with the HR1 issues with the big, beautiful bill, as the president called it? I mean, is there a plan to kind of offset that? I don't really know what you can do, but maybe you have some ideas.
Thank you for asking. If I knew the answer, I don't think I'd be sitting right here, honestly, or standing right here. But it's really leveraging our partnerships in the community, really staying grounded in our mission and what we need to do and want to do and be able to sustain. Part of that is being really efficient in our operations and focusing on the why, which is our patients, and just sustaining through the storm. So thank you for asking.
All right. Councilmember Rose.
Ashley, thank you for presentation and thanks to John Muir for participating in our community programs. Especially recently, I had opportunity to meet in culture and community. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
So my first question is about mental health. One of the big challenge that our community youth as well as adults, they are going through a lot of mental health issues.
Mhm.
Do you have any programs that can help our community on this?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have an acute psychiatric hospital in Concord off of Port Chicago Highway. And a really interesting tidbit is that we support 10% of all acute adolescent psychiatric beds in the state. So we are the ones that we have folks coming all the way up from Southern California, all over the state to utilize our services. And we are one of the only providers in our area. We do have inpatient and outpatient services for our adolescents, and a lot of information's on our website on jmh.com, but we can definitely get you more information if you want the details of that.
That will be great. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, it is in Concord, but it will be great if we can have something that accessible within our community.
Absolutely.
That will be amazing. And
Correct. And we do embed some of our therapy services within our primary care locations at some of our outpatient centers, for example. And we can definitely look into that at our BR15 location if that's a community need, something we can explore.
that will be awesome.
Thank
My
you.
next question is, as you see, recently we are getting a lot of swarms of earthquakes and a lot of people in the community, including ourselves, like we are worried about, okay, what happens if something goes really bad? So are you prepared for providing services when something like disaster happens? If yes, could you please share what is your plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be able to get back to you with additional details, but just know that emergency planning is a part of our culture and safety and our our high reliability organization. We're known for HRO techniques, and focusing on safety first and being able to prepare for such things is at top of mind at all times. And getting through our COVID pandemic and working through that together, we've been able to prove that we've been able to be sustainable and be here for our community. But I can get additional details for you if you're interested.
That will be great. My final question is, a lot of our youth, especially we have a very high talent school, educational, academic wise. Also, Tableau Valley College, that's another place. So is there any programs that you are running which will help our youth to get internships or like entry-level jobs? Is there any path that you provide? If yes, could you please share the contact information so that whoever is listening should be able to contact?
Yeah, that's a great call out. We can definitely follow up with that contact information. We do have internship programs and volunteer programs within the high school. I'm not sure what the name of the program is, so I'll have to get back to you with the details, but I know that those opportunities exist within both of our hospital campuses.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Vice Mayor Rubio.
Hi, thank you for that great presentation. And we're really happy to have healthcare services expanded here in San Ramon. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I just was curious when you were talking about the phase 2 expansion and with the CT MRI, are you implementing, this is just more me out of curiosity, because I know a lot of these machines, there's newer technology all the time and refinements made to provide more better resolution and detailed information. Are these going to be newer technology?
It would be brand new, net new equipment. So I'm sure, I don't know the make and model of what would be added, but it's net new. So I'm sure it'll be the best and part of our John Muir Health standard at our other locations as well. So we would bring that here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then my second question is, given what's happening, I mean, obviously, just kind of expounding a little bit of what you're saying, the cost of the more people that are insured, they're going to be relying on emergency care, and that reliance obviously is going to have an inevitable impact on quality of care at the emergency room. But also there's going to be issues of unpaid bills, right? And that cost shifting is then going to be obviously, like you said, passed on to the insurer, those who are insured through their insurance companies, which in turn may push people out of the ability to be insured themselves because their out of pocket is going to go up. And that in turn, now more people, even more people beyond those on Medicare and Medi-Cal will be uninsured, causing a net revenue loss to the hospital. What will the hospital do in that instance? Are they going to, and if they could potentially have to resort to, and I think it has happened in some hospitals already have resorted to, dismissing healthcare providers to save. And so this could become more than an emergency room quality of care. It could become a systemic problem. So what are what ideas are the hospital's people at your executive level considering as possible options, considerations, not that it's definitive, but what are some troubleshooting options that you've considered?
Thank you for the question. I believe it is above my level to be able to provide such a detailed explanation to you on the strategy of hospital operations, but I'm going to phone a friend and be able to get you that information back, because I'm not quite sure where we're headed there. At this point, we're focused on operational efficiency current state, and it's hard to forecast what's going to come down the pipe, but I'll be able to get that for you.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
It's, just something that, having been involved for some time with dealing with and more on a proximal level with healthcare for the past 30 years of my life, I really see how those impacts can affect people at top down. So yes, I'm looking forward to some of those and responses, information you may have to provide. I appreciate it.
Yes.
But thank you for being here and thank you for the presentation.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Ashley, I just got a couple questions. One, you were talking about partnerships, and that's so important for all of us to have solid partnerships. I didn't hear a specific mention of some of the other medical partnerships like Kaiser or San Ramon Regional Medical that are kind of local, kind of right around you, that kind of that corner there by BR 15.
Yep.
Or even maybe the VA for our veterans, or Stanford Tri-Valley, but can you talk about your association with some of the other medical groups and the kinds of things you get together and talk about, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's a lot of joint ventures and partnerships that John Muir Health has, part of which UCSF. We have partnership with Stanford Children's. San Ramon Regional, of course, is a very strong partner of ours. And I mean, I would have to get into we're in so many buckets and so many places that I would have to get you that.
Yeah, well, I know some of them are kind of competitors also, so, and I appreciate that, I respect that,
Yes,
but, all right, and then, maybe you could talk a little bit, I've seen some things in the news of, from John Muir about bicycle and scooter safety. You want to highlight anything, for our audience here in terms of, John Muir's observations and concerns and what you're seeing in terms of trends and things like that related to e-bikes and e-scooters and things like that?
Yeah, I believe our EDs are definitely seeing an uptick in accidents. And because of the high speed, even helmets are not making as big of a difference as we would hope. So just being very safe, keep those helmets on, and restricting as best you can and being aware of the rules of the road. But we're seeing a lot more accidents coming through our ERs. So
Yeah.
it's troublesome. Yeah.
All right. And then, we've seen some things in the news also recently about the county considering some perhaps even getting a revenue measure or something for some funding to go towards medical costs to offset the HR1 thing and everything else. Would John Muir potentially be in receipt of that, or is that just strictly for county health related?
I'm sorry,
programs and such?
I don't know the answer to that,
Yeah. Okay.
Mayor, sorry. Well, I'll look into that though.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
no sweat. All right. Those are all the questions I have. Any other redirects? Okay, then let me open up public comment. Ashley, thank you. We may have a couple comments here in a second, but see if we have any public comments.
There are no public comments.
Okay. Anyone want to make any final comments?
Thank you. Thanks for your services.
Thank you, everybody.
All
Pleasure.
right. Thanks for just being an active member of our community. I've been over the BR-15 side. It's a great facility, and just thanks for being a participant here and helping out our residents.
Who's the person? Sorry. Who's the lady with you over there?
That's Sharon Jenkins. She's our director.
Sharon.
of
Hi.
Government Affairs.
Hi.
All right.
Familiar face to me.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, great. Then let's move on to item 9.2, athletic facilities co-sponsorship policy update. And we have a presentation by Henry. You going to tee this up?
Yes, sir.
All right, Henry Perez Alonso, Parks and Community Services Director.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, it is actually my pleasure to present our newly named Athletic Facilities Co-Sponsor Policy Update. Now, the policy plays a vital role in supporting the community-based sports and recreation programs in San Ramon. Now, what really is co-sponsorship? Co-sponsorship status for here in San Ramon is really granted to youth and adult sports organizations that meet defined requirements and provide services that the city does not currently directly offer. They approved groups receive benefits and also accept responsibilities. Co-sponsorship is much more about than just allocating field or pool or gym time. It's at its core, it ensures equitable access to limited facilities while supporting both established and emerging sports. While the city offers a wide range of programs, we cannot meet every need alone. Strong partnerships allow us to expand opportunities and strengthen the community wellness. Now, this policy guides how we serve the entire community, and it's through our athletic facilities. In short, it promotes health and wellness through active recreation, establishing strategic partnerships with these organizations that supplement services that the city, again, does not have the expertise or even resources to provide, and it ensures a clear and equitable framework that for the use of the city and shared school district facilities. Now, the athletic facilities co-sponsorship policy as a whole is really designed to maximize access to the city athletic facilities for our San Ramon residents and those employees of San Ramon businesses. It ensures fair and equitable sharing of limited facilities across a diverse range of programs. It provides for inclusive youth recreation opportunities in compliance with the Fair Play in Community Sports Act while maintaining access for adult recreation. It also protects and preserves city facilities for long-term sustainability and support organizations, again, that provide a valued service that the city here does not directly offer. These principles really anchor every allocation and decision we make when we work with these co-sponsored groups. Now, why does this policy matter? The San Ramon has experienced a significant growth in sports participation, including the emergence of new organizations or even new sports. Demand really exceeds capacity for athletic fields, gyms, and pools. Now, due to that limited facilities, this policy really establishes a clear criteria for priority use to ensure that, again, for equitable distribution among our current and future uses. This policy ensures that essentially when the demand is high, decisions are made through a fair and transparent framework. Now, our Parks and Community Services staff, under my leadership, is responsible for administering and overseeing this policy. And honestly, I just want to take this moment to recognize that team that works every day to ensure the compliance for both the city and our co-sponsor groups. They are dedicated professionals who lead with integrity and consistently prioritize the needs of San Ramon residents. Their professionalism, fairness, and commitment to doing this is doing what's right for the broader community is really a high standard that is set. It's a bar that I try and meet personally because they inspire me to be better. And again, with that, this athletic fields co-sponsorship policy updates that are presented tonight reflects months of thoughtful work by this team as well as our Parks Commission. It incorporates feedback from the Commission, the Policy Committee, and public input received throughout the review process. It's also important to note that the policy itself contains general information and guidelines, and it's not intended to be comprehensive, all-inclusive, or address all possible applications or exceptions to the policies and procedures that are described within it. It does, however, also allow for the city to reserve the right to make facility use decisions in alignment with the community needs and public service goals. including modifying schedules or operations when necessary, really to ensure the effectiveness and support of city objectives. The policy was last comprehensively updated in 2018, which before that, apparently I heard it was a 5-page document, which was established in the early 1990s. They looked at the goals and the updated requirements to become a co-sponsor group, all of which were discussed and approved by the Parks Commission at that time. Now, the process for the most recent updates include administrative and kind of structural review, input from our co-sponsor groups, a legal review from our city attorney. The process included multiple public steps as well. The Parks and Community Services Commission initially reviewed the proposed policy updates on November 13th, where feedback was provided and direction was actually given to staff to present this policy for further review to the Commission's policy committee. Subsequently, that policy committee reviewed a revised draft of the policy in more detail in December of last year. They received public comment, they provided additional feedback, and recommended that it be moved forward to the full commission for approval. Now, the proposed policy updates were then presented, incorporating all the recommendations from both the meetings, along with public comment and further analysis, to the Parks Commission at its last January meeting, where it was ultimately approved. Again, the overall goal of the policy remained and still remains unchanged with that update. Now, the purpose of this approved update was to simplify and improve the document's organization, strengthen its opportunities for facility enhancements, support emerging sports, and provide a greater detail of scheduling and allocation process. The updates also clarified expectations for our co-sponsored groups and strengthened accountability for both city staff and approved co-sponsored groups. As I stated before, the updates were mostly administrative in nature with minimal impact to our current co-sponsored groups. And similar to previous reviews, it included a much broader evaluation of overall policy. The policy provides, again, general guidelines, is not intended to address every possible situation or exception. Now, as an example, while individual organizations may not always receive every allocation they request, the policy is designed to ensure fair and equitable access for all current and future co-sponsor groups, whether they participated with the city for a year or 50 years. This policy serves the broader community rather than a single organization. Now, the council has an extensive list within your packet of the updates that were within this policy. However, the following aspects are really the policy highlights, which we think are the most significant updates as a result of this review. We have the revised policy further clarifies the distinction between a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 co-sponsored group. The eligibility criteria and the responsibilities and the exceptions are more clearly defined, and how groups really applying for a co-sponsorship are evaluated. And the youth flow chart that kind of shows the levels and what you need to meet to move forward is also adjusted to visually reflect the distinctions between eligibility requirements. The policy also expands and refines several key definitions, including commercial liability insurance, performance history, primary and non-primary seasons, as well as a formal code of conduct that's been incorporated to clearly outline expectations and responsibilities for co-sponsored groups. The policy also establishes formal communication standards, interactions between staff and user groups. These standards are based on feedback directly from the Parks and Community Services Commission, which gives us an intent to promote the consistency and professionalism when receiving and responding to our co-sponsored groups. There's a revised policy. The revised policy or updated policy also includes additional language regarding the handling and the protection of personal and sensitive information. These updates are in direct response to the Commission's feedback and again align with best practices for privacy and data protection, as well as records retention. The allocation process and timelines have been clarified. And this will better explain how facilities are evaluated and assigned with additional factors for staff to consider when finalizing those allocations. Anywhere from year-round group versus seasonal group, recreation versus competitive, the importance of what they're offering to the community, as well as primary season versus non-primary season programs. And I also believe it's important to note that the city allocates facility space, and it's space based on the adopted policy criteria to ensure equitable access. Once space is assigned, each organization is responsible for scheduling its own age groups and program needs within that allotment. Specific field or program preferences is not necessarily not an allocation factor, as that role really, we need to maintain fairness and co-sponsor groups, again, with this limited capacity. Speaking of capacity, in addition, the policy now includes an assessment of overall facility use capacity when considering any new co-sponsored groups. And also the co-sponsor groups may propose larger scale facility enhancements. So they have a voice into how we can enhance any of the facilities that are out there, whether they are funded fully or partially by the group or one or more groups. Such things such as lighting, scoreboards, batting cages. Right now, just based on this particular new portion of the policy, we do have about 8 proposals that are really kind of in the works right now from some different groups. Again, anywhere from batting cages to lights to field enhancements. The policy update also, the revised policy includes that the Parks and Community Services Commission in the approval process. So essentially, any new group who meets all the criteria and was allowed to move forward will be sent to the Parks Commission, who will have the final say in kind of bringing them in as a new co-sponsored group. And this change, again, really does help the additional level of oversight and transparency for the establishment of any new partnerships that come in. Now, while this policy includes additions and procedural updates, again, the policy's core goals remain unchanged. The intent continues to support community-serving organizations while responsibilities and sustainable use of city facilities are conducted. And we do that through access, equity, inclusion, infrastructure, and opportunity. There are currently 14 co-sponsor groups that serve about 5,700 different participants. Of those 5,700, we have about 4,000 that are actually the residents. Half of those 14 groups are what we would call a tier 1 versus a tier 1 group. And throughout the process, they've been informed about the updates and had the opportunity to provide comments along the way. We're going to continue to work with this group as through the implementation and rollout of these updates, as we actually have a meeting with them tomorrow night to dive further into the updates and to really go over any specifics and address any actionable items that may be needed from them. This updated policy, again, has been distributed and is also available on the city's website at this time. And again, I would like to just point out, or I'd like to point out that at this time, there are no additional groups that are currently seeking co-sponsorship. So it's really the 14, and that's all we have right now with no one looking to come in. What I have to say, quite honestly, is after, I think it's about 30 years in this field, and no matter what city I have served, I can say this confidently. Facility allocations is always a puzzle. It really is. There's rarely a perfect solution, especially as demand exceeds any capacity that people have. But policies much like this one provide clarity and consistency and the framework that we can stand on when difficult decisions are made. And again, I'm extremely proud and grateful for the staff who's dedicated their time and expertise to this update, and grateful to the commission who helped us get here. And I'm confident that as our community evolves, we too will continue to refine this approach. So at this time, staff and I are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you for the report. So let me, we'll just start in the same order we did for John Muir. Let me start down at this now with Councilmember. Okay, Councilmember Adler.
Yeah, this has been something I kind of looked over the last couple of months, and I guess the bottom line is we really want to serve the San Ramon residents first of all. And I know there was a, issue with Elite Swim, that group, and I think they felt they weren't getting. I don't know if there was a division between regular season and off season, but I think the guy in charge was feeling like his group didn't have accessibility as much as they wanted. But is it really kind of coming down to the numbers of the people and whether they're residents or not? Because I know that's one of the criteria, like how many people, 100. I know there was a, let me see, I think you had to have like at least 100 people. And I wasn't sure when they said 100, is that just people who are participating, or are they residents of San Ramon?
Yes, depending on the tier, if I understand the question correctly, yes, they have to meet in order to be a co-sponsor group, have to have a minimum of 100 active participants, and of those, 75% residents.
Okay. And do you recall, was that an issue with that particular group I just mentioned? Was it a kind of a numbers? Because, again, we want to give San Ramon residents first opportunity. So I guess the it all kind of comes down to the numbers, right? Whether you have enough.
At the end of the day, each of our co-sponsor groups have a criteria that they need to have met to become a co-sponsor group and meet to continue to be a co-sponsor group. So if there's ever an issue of any kind of residency, we will be working with those groups to ensure that they can, either meet it or get to that point within a certain period of time in order to continue to have that designation as a co-sponsor group. As far as the specific situation, I think it's a situation of demand exceeding capacity.
Right, yeah, and that's always going to be the case. And the other question I have, I know, I mean, we have a great thing going here, but we do have issues about different people kind of working together over, they all want to use the field. And is there discussions about trying to help work out some of these issues between the clubs? Because I know what you'll say as a member of the city staff, but has there really been a kind of a pronounced effort to get them to work together? Some of these groups that are kind of competing who, feel like they're not getting enough time. I think more of all the issues going on, that seems to be the most, when I guess it's because it's a competitive sport, you know what I mean? And people are strong and wanting to get practice that they want, but it seems like there's a lot of kind of antagonism between some of these groups. And
yeah, if I may, I to answer the question, we always encourage our groups to work together to try and work things out for scheduling. A good number of them actually sit down and work together and say, hey, I'm going to ask for this, you're going to ask for that. And then they submit their request because they've already spoken to each other. So we will always encourage that. It is not, to the best of their abilities, they do that. I think that right now that most groups have done that. Even if there's any question of any group that has done that recently, there has been some considerations made to swap some things, and they've, been able to submit those. But I think bottom line, it goes back to demand exceeds capacity. One group cannot have it all, but we have a lot of groups that, based on criteria, have most of it and have to share. And that is kind of the long-standing thing. And like I said, I mentioned throughout my career, this is for life or longer, everybody wants field space. Everybody wants gym space. Everybody wants pool space. And in order to do that, you have to work with others in order to kind of get that done. And you have to also recognize what you're getting in return. We do have some longstanding partners, folks that have been with us for 50 years who are still getting reallocations and have to make adjustments year after year because they understand and recognize that, hey, space is limited and we need to share because we're all good community members and trying to work together to make sure that we ensure, again, equitable access to everybody.
Yeah, I guess it's to their benefit to recruit within the city. I mean, you'll have a lot of athletes around that are great athletes, but, it doesn't really help when you have a lot maybe that are outside the city and they're going to lose that opportunity because we encourage San Ramon first. So, all right. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate the report.
And Councilmember Adler, if I can add just really quick to that statement, these facilities are maintained by San Ramon taxpayers, and that's why the policy recognizes San Ramon users have priority. It's not sole priority. If there is capacity, we entertain outside groups. But I also want to mention, the encouraging groups to work together. Our policy really focuses on allocating the field time. Our policy doesn't really address their operations. So how the groups use the time, what criteria they use for their players, what their needs are, we really don't get involved with. If there is a need that the groups can work out together, that's great. They're the experts. They know their sports. They know their needs. We are not. So we generally tend to stay on the we'll allocate side. And if there's any operational issues, and it's, to my knowledge, it's worked out pretty well when groups need to swap or make concessions or whatever. They're the ones that know the details that need to be worked out. And we say, okay, work it out and then let us know what the solution is and we'll go from there.
And just keep sticking to the policy.
Yeah, At certain levels, we're not experts on youth baseball or soccer or the swim needs for particular groups and what their competitive needs are. And you've heard from groups, they have kids that are, in the middle of training and going off to hopefully bigger and better, venues. And they have certain criteria where it's just, okay, we'll allocate the space. It's up to you to figure out how to use it.
Right. As
If
long
I
as
could-
we are equal, the way we treat everybody as equal through, well, as per the
The
policy.
policy. Yep.
Yeah.
If I may just add to your question too, the first thing on page 11 of the policy that talks about co-sponsored group responsibilities, co-sponsored groups agree to work in partnership and cooperation with the city staff and other co-sponsored groups, recognizing that no one group has permanent claim to public facilities. So it's in there as well.
All right. Thank you. Let me go over to Councilmember Rose.
Thank you for great presentation. Thanks staff and PCS Commission for working together and coming out with this policy. I wish we could have done this a little earlier, but better getting done than not getting it. But our city is well known for top quality sports, one of our signature. Okay, so just to give a quick background, this is pretty close to my heart because I started working with city as a field user in 2008. That's when I started my journey. And then as a Parks Commission in 2016, I had opportunity to review this whole policy and all that. So it's definitely pretty close to my heart. And also sports is very important thing that we provide the facilities for our community, right? So it's whatever we learn, the lessons, that's definitely going to be very important for me than what we gone through all this, like at least last 6 months that we had to go through. One of the things that you mentioned, right, about the demand and supply, that's always a challenge. Since 2008, when I started working with city, every time, it took almost 6 years per each cricket field to get a cricket field, to be specific. So this is going to happen, continue, right? As our demographics changing, new lot of community members, they want to play different sports. And one of the fastest growing is cricket. Now, when we have these capacity challenges, so how we are going to address the allocation? Are we going to go to the Parks Commission, request, or go to the City Council and request what is the status, what is the forecast, how we are planning to address that?
I think there's twofold to address capacity issue. One, we will be conducting a field use study so that we can actually know what it is that our capacity is, what can we accommodate for, is there any future planning that can be happening? So that's going to be a study that will come back to us to give us hard data and hard information that we'll be able to allow to provide to the commission, because the commission at the end of the day will have the final approval of a co-sponsored group. So really that's like at the end of the day with the policy, what we're saying is if you want to become a co-sponsored group, you must meet all these things. One of the criteria that will be discussed by the Parks Commission and also from the staff as they put forth the proposal is their capacity and what does doing this, do to the other groups. So that information will be kind of placed there. And I think it's also with the field study, it will allow us to know what we have, what we can sustain. As an example, with the 3 cricket pitches that were put in the last few years, in total, 6 ball diamonds and 4 soccer fields were then essentially taken out of the rotation. So in one sense, we have to make sure that we're sharing that information as well, because yes, there is new and emerging sports that come in. I would say one of the new ones that you will hear, if you haven't heard, is flag football, but specifically flag football for women. Now, that is coming up. It's going to be in the Olympics. You're going to see that more and more. We have to kind of be on top of the trends. And is that going to be something that we hope to say we may have to be ready for? And I already know that there are currently some clubs that are out there playing at different city fields who might impact field use as well. So all of those things will be taken into account as we go forward. I think we have to. And I think that if to say what is the lessons learned is that we need to make sure that we have the information in front of us in order to present it to the decision-making bodies so that it really, if a new group comes in, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. One of the things that we added in there as well is that we need them to be established at least 3 years. One of the reasons why, that's something I can tell you I brought in because I've seen it time and time again over the last years that I've been a part of this. Field use, athletic fields, facilities use is always at a premium. So it's going to be really important for us to be in there, and it's going to be important for these groups to make sure they're established. There's a lot of things what I would call mad dad leagues, where someone breaks off from another league because they're not happy with what is going on there. So therefore, they establish their own league. And when they establish their league, they're able to, they should, in future, any future co-sponsors will have to say, here's I'm established, I got 1 year in, I got 2 years in, I've got 3 years in. Because if you think about it, the first year is always chaotic. Second year, you learn something a little bit. And the third year, you're actually really making some changes and implement, you're able to be stable. So there are things that are in there specifically to address, to make it, and I hate to use the term difficult, but it is a little more challenging, and you have to prove yourself in order to make sure that you are going to be somebody who's going to be able to sustain and be a part of the co-sponsorship policy within, within the city of San Ramon.
Yeah, that's awesome that we added that clause, because we do see this all the time. In the past, with the same baseball groups, we had the same problem. When I was in Parks Commission, that's when we made it clear that the nonprofit organizations to get the co-sponsorship should go through the commission. So that's how we could able to handle that situation. But otherwise, any dad, any parent, or anybody have a fight, they'll create new one. While especially the challenge that we are going to face is we have a capacity challenge. Now you're telling your co-sponsors, field user, that, hey, you'll put a cap. You cannot take any more these kids, right?
We would never say that. We would never limit the capacity that someone could bring into their organization. That's not on us.
Not on you, but in the end, they have to do it, because if they don't have enough fields, how they are going to allocate, right? So, but then these other organizations can always come in and say that, hey, we can provide you that facility in some other cities, and then they start building this organization, and eventually they will pool the kids from the city, and then they can come back and say that now I have 100 people, now you give me the grounds. That's where we'll end up, keep coming back to the same situation. So I'm glad that you have the capacity field use study. That's definitely very important, so that we'll let commission and council make the decisions where they want to invest for our community. That will be awesome. And also the 3 years one, that will definitely help. Now, my next question is regarding the classification of tier 1 and tier 2. I was walking through the document. So I couldn't, just to make sure, so tier 1 will get the priority 1 and tier 2 will get the priority 2, right? So for example, if there are 2 fields available, and if there are 2 tier 1s comes and 1 tier 2 comes, the allocation goes to tier 1 first. And if there is anything, then that will go to tier 2. Is that?
So in the allocation process, if there are 2 available spaces and we have 3 organizations that are asking for the space, the tier 1 organizations will have priority over a tier 2 organization. If the 2 tier 1 organizations are both asking for the same thing, then we go down to the priority and the allocation that is listed within our policy that helps us through the allocation process. And there's a lot of different things you look at. You look at, their size of their group, the resident percentage they have, the number of hours they've actually requested, percentage of girls participating, co-sponsor groups, history, prior year allocations, again, primary season versus non-private season. So there's a list of things that would go down to if it was a head-to-head tier 1 request.
Yeah. So we need to be careful when we need to define it clearly, because that's the mistake that we did in our previous allocation. The previous allocation, we took out from tier 1, when 2 tier 1s comes, we took out from tier 1 and we allocated some of those fields to the other tier 1, while tier 2 still have that facility. So I hope we don't repeat the same thing, and let's make sure that we clearly mention that in our policy.
So I'm not clear on what exactly was stated that we supposedly did. I think that any allocations that went with tier 1 programs really did look at the policy and followed the policy all the way through. So I don't think anything was allocated outside of policy in the way it's done.
If you want to clarify, then I would love to have the clarification.
What is the actual question?
So the question is, if tier 1 is a priority, when you have a field allocation requirement, so first you take those allocations, give it to tier one, right? And then what are the leftover, you'll give it to tier two.
Yes, based on requests, whatever they request, the tier one has priority over tier two.
Yeah, we are clear on that one.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when there is two tier one field users come to you, and then there is another tier two user also come to you, and first who you allocate the fields?
They are two tier one groups. We would then look at, per the policy, all the different criteria that would go into, as it says here, when taking into consideration the type of sport, following factors of allocating space, the size of the co-sponsor group. So if we had two tier one groups going for field space, one group was bigger than the other, that doesn't mean that the bigger group gets all the space. It means the bigger group will get most of the space or more of the space. We still will, again, equitable access to all the field use is something that we really kind of strive for. Therefore, those two groups, we look at them as a group that's bigger, they'll get more. The group that's smaller will get some, but not all. Because that's one of the things we want.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm not asking that question. My question is very simple. If there is two tier one field user and there is a tier two field user, if they come to you and ask for allocation, do you give first allocation to tier one organizations and then you go to tier two?
I believe I answered that, and yes, we'll go tier one first and then tier two.
So that's a problem that in our previous allocations, it didn't happen. I don't want the same mistake to repeat. In order to avoid that, we need to make sure that we clearly mention that in our policy, that always tier one will get the priority, then only it will go to the tier two. We need to have that clarity.
I believe it does state in that there's priority to tier one.
Yeah, but that's a mistake which we did in previously. That's what I'm telling you. We need to learn our lessons and move forward.
Well, Councilmember Gross, can I ask, we followed the policy with this last allocation. Do you have a specific example? You said that we did not. Can you give us that specific example?
Sure. So there are two SRCA or CFC, Cricket for Cubs, as well as California Cricket Academy. Both are tier one groups, right? And also we have SRCA adult, which is a tier two. Okay. Now, when we did the allocation, we gave allocation, we took a couple of allocations from tier one from SRCA Youth or CFC and gave it to California Cricket Academy. Rather than, we should have done that, first you allocate to CFC first and then allocate to California Cricket Academy, and then leftover you should assign it to the SRC adult. But that didn't happen.
I think we have a breakdown of that allocation. I'll let Henry.
I have actually just, if this came up, there's just a breakdown of the different allocations from both fields and pools and also the gyms, if I may.
Do we have a slide of that? You do not? Okay.
Thank you.
I wonder if does the heads up projector work? No. Okay. So Henry, you're going to need to kind of read through this.
Right. So really just as an example, I think overall, if the very first page is an allocation of, say, the cricket pitches. So and we're just using an example of March. As you can see, they're represented by three different colors. There is a group that has a majority of the space. That is a tier one group. There is a group that has a minority of the space, the green, which is another tier one group. Then we have the blue. So the three groups that you were speaking of. So the Cricket for Cubs has a majority of the space. We have California Cricket Academy has a minority of the time. And then, yes, also the SRCA adult was also allocated some time at these pitches. You could also see how the one pitch at Quail Run is primarily the youth, whereas then the tier two would have been then allocated space at Gale Ranch and Windermere, which again would have an opportunity to give them different fields. They were also allocated outside fields beyond the cricket pitches so they can continue to play as adults. So we did try our best to make sure that we accommodated all the groups to the best of our abilities because they are co-sponsored groups. And I just wanted to show that as an example to kind of show how it was allocated to the best of our abilities to ensure that we did kind of try and provide equitable access to all the groups that were there. And understanding that, yes, tier 2 did get bumped for space for these other groups. But it does show that they also do have some space.
Well, Henry, giving me all this information like this is not going to change the fact, okay? I'll tell you very simple and straightforward. We need to make sure that when we are saying tier 1 get the priority, we need to make sure that is followed. And that should be specifically mentioned. And first, it should have gone to California Cricket Academy and CFC. They should first get that. Then only the others will get it. So these two groups, the same thing happens even if it is other sport. So let's stick to that. Let's fix what happened in the past. We learn from it. Going forward, let's make sure we have that clearly mentioned in the policy, because right now, when I read the policy, it was not clearly mentioned there.
If I could interrupt with just 2 points. First point is that for the benefit of the public, there is a copy of this exhibit. It's in the back if anyone wants to look at it. Unfortunately, we only have one copy, but it is available for public review. Then I'm a little confused, and I think there's a little bit of disparity in how we look at these allocations. And I go back to the co-sponsored group responsibilities #1 that says that no one group has a permanent claim to public facilities.
Yes.
So therefore, when you approach one specific time slot for one specific field, then what you're looking at are 3 parties that have unequal access based on tiers, but then 2 parties that have the same right to that time spot, except and then now the criteria apply. So you're not actually taking away a time slot from one group and giving it to another. That time slot is not allocated when the new quarter comes up. So there's no taking away anything. It's simply having a time slot that's available to all parties.
Yes, there is no time slots taking away, but you need to understand that first you allocate to tier 1, then only you allocate to tier 2. That's the policy.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Let's follow that policy. Whatever the mistake that happened previously, let's not make it repeated. Let's make sure we clearly mention that in our policy. That's all I'm asking for.
Clearly mention that a tier 2 group may not get any space, or I'm just trying to clarify.
Whatever we just now talked, that if there are multiple groups, tier 1 will get the priority. First, the allocations go to tier 1. And then the remaining will go to tier 2. Because we are dividing these into tiers. Okay, so
Understood it. So I guess what I'm hearing is, in the policy, let's say page 20, where it currently states that allocations for standard use will be established based on the following priority classification groups. 1, city or school district events and programs. 2, tier 1 co-sponsor groups, either youth organizations A or adult organizations B. And then 3, tier 2 co-sponsor groups, youth organizations, and then adults. And then 4, all other resident groups. So somewhere in there, you, if what I'm hearing correctly, you'd like it a little more clear to say that this order is this order.
that's right. We need to, because we had the same thing in previous allocations, but we missed it. What we did is, instead of taking out from tier 2 allocations, we took it from tier 1 to tier 1, we swapped. That's what happened. Now, to
I don't
City
think that's
attorney's
entirely
point.
correct, but that's okay. We'll take a look.
that's
into
what
it.
happened.
I-
You can
I-
ask your staff. If I'm wrong, just
Again, I will look
bring
into
them
that
and
clearly.
they can answer your question. So let's make sure we are clear on that one. Okay, and then now You mentioned about formal communication between staff and co-sponsor groups. Now, I'm just want to know, other than field user groups, do you have any other meetings or?
Outside of the organized group meetings like tomorrow night when we meet the co-sponsor groups, outside of that, are there any other meetings?
Yeah, just I want to know like what are the, how you are getting feedback from your field user
They
groups?
provide it via email. They provide it if they happen to stop by somewhere, if they see us at an event. I think information comes in a variety of ways.
Okay, so now you mentioned that if there is a conflict, you expect that the field users get together
Yes,
and they resolve it.
they work to resolve it based on that same sentence that I read earlier to Councilmember Adler as well. Yes.
Okay, that's great. Now, if one of the parties is not ready to involve, so does city have any privilege to bring them onto the table?
Could we ask them to come to the table and meet? Beyond asking them to meet, I suppose so, sure.
Do we have, within the policy, do we have that stated in our policy? If I remember right, it is there.
If I could jump in on this, there is an appeal process. It's on the last page of the policy. It says that the appeal will go to the city manager, and that the decision of the city manager will be appealable to the city council. And during that process, all of the stakeholders in that particular type of field are going to be affected by the outcome of the appeal. So that's what gives the city leverage to bring all the parties to the table, because if the parties can come to some sort of agreement before the appeal hearing, then the appellant can just withdraw the appeal, having come to some agreement. And the leverage there is that any one of the stakeholders or all three of them could walk away from the process dissatisfied with the decision of either the council or the city manager. Rather than risk that, they're incentivized to come together and talk, and city staff can certainly participate in those discussions.
And we do have it in the policy that says to make adjustments during allocation process and to work with the groups to resolve conflicts or address recognized needs. That's also in there.
It's there, right? Just to make sure that staff can call for the meeting.
It doesn't explicitly or directly say that staff can call for a meeting, but I think in the spirit of it, if staff needed to call a meeting, we could certainly.
You can still call, but can we specify that in the policy clearly? I don't want to leave this again, the same lessons that we learned. I don't want to keep repeating that subjective leaving, like we could, we would. Let's make sure we have that in the policy, whether staff is going to have a right to ask for the involved parties to come to the meeting, or we can say that we don't have that right. We need to mention that clearly.
I think what you're talking about is the appeal process.
Okay. So there are two ways, right? One is appeal process. In the appeal process, if the other party is not ready to meet, is staff have the authority to do the allocation changes?
Under appeal, yes. Otherwise, the appeal would be meaningless.
That's right. So I read that one.
And again, I know that we did state that the policy provides general guidelines and it isn't really
I read
intended to
everything,
cover
so-
every possible scenario, but we do the best that we can through this policy, again, to provide equitable space for all the groups that are, our co-sponsored groups.
That's definitely, we want to make sure. That's not a question. The question is, we need to make sure that staff should have a right to, or if staff says that, no, we don't have a right, then we need to mention that clearly in the policy. I see in the policy that staff do have right to change the allocation based on whatever the changes that are requested. If they think that, if staff think that this is a right allocation, then they have a right to change the allocation.
Mhm.
It is there.
Yes.
So I just wanted to hear that we are going to stick with that, right?
And yes, and we have received recent requests to change, and we did not feel that that change was equitable or right to ask for.
Okay.
So in the current distribution, in staff's opinion, it was an equitable distribution of all the play areas involved.
So what happens to that appeal?
So if an applicant appeals within the time frame of the allocation, then we set up a public hearing date for the appeal.
So that goes to the Parks Commission?
No, that goes to, I believe it's myself. So the Parks Director gives an initial opinion and writes a letter, and then we set a public hearing date. And then based on that public hearing, the applicant has the right then to appeal to the council, if I got that correctly.
That's correct.
Okay. So now your public hearing is done in your office, or is it like public hearing, or how that goes?
That's something we're currently figuring out because we've never had to do one before. We've never gotten to that level. The groups have always worked things out amicably. But yes, we do have a current appeal, and we are in the process of responding to the appellant, and then we will be scheduling that public hearing. So it will be a public meeting like anything else. We will notice it. It will have the right for the public to attend. We're still working our way through that format. I'll let Martin comment on any other formatting because this basically follows the Muni code for appeals.
Yes, and the legal requirements for the hearing are basically very vague, and the only real requirement is that we allow all the stakeholders to have equal time and to give the appellant the final word before a decision is made. So we'll do that. In this case, the city manager will have the opportunity to ask questions and get all the information that he can. And then if that decision is appealed, then the council will sit in the place of the city manager and either uphold or overturn that decision.
So basically you're saying that city manager can, based on city manager's opinion, it can be called for a meeting, or it can be just say that, okay, this is no more an issue?
No, once the appeal's been filed, we have to hold a public hearing.
Public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So
we're
in the process of figuring out that process. We've never been through it before. This is not typical, but we're establishing the guidelines for that.
Okay, that's great. So please share with me once you have that.
Yeah, the process is going to be very similar to like a zoning violation appeal, those types of things. Both sides get this, or all sides get their say. A decision is made, and that decision is appealable.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, but once we have that process, please share with me on that one. And then also one more thing, I saw that sharing the roster information. So looks like every sport is different. The sports, how they are played. So cricket is being in this community for last 15 years, 16 years. Yeah. So one of the challenge that each sport faces, maybe like, for example, in this case, the coaches, all those people are like coaches or facilities managing some pitches and all that, they require to bring them back from different countries on visa programs and all that, right? So the way these organizations are created or how they handle their budgets and all that can be different. Is it possible for you to bring and talk to them with these field users and make sure understand what are their pain points, how we can help them, these groups, how we can help them to make sure that they should be able to be compliant with our policy, at the same time, how we can help them to make sure that they are. Here, the challenge is going to be because if an organization, whether it is CCA or CFC, they hire coaches, when they are hiring, it can be across the region, they have the budget. They cannot have a budget specific to a city. They don't create organizations specific to a city, right? So that will be a challenge for them. Whereas soccer or baseball, we have local coaches, right? So we get local in the sense within US. So there are some challenges that they face. So could you please work with these organizations and help them how you can figure out about this roster sharing information?
Well, I would suggest that if you want a formal change to our policy, that it's suggested and the council vote on it. Right now, the policy is that for co-sponsorship qualification, we receive the roster for the entire organization. And that's to judge how many San Ramon residents are in that organization and not just reporting that it's 100% San Ramon residents. The reason behind that policy is to ensure that organizations aren't signing up and then they're bringing in players from outside the city for that field time. It goes back to the San Ramon residents are paying for the fields. We want to ensure that San Ramon residents get that field time. So I believe what you're suggesting would then be a carve out specifically for cricket, or we would then be applying it to everyone, which I think we would need feedback from user groups and more thought before making that formal policy change. I understand where you're coming from with the operational challenges. And this leads back to my comment earlier that we tend to allocate and then stay out of operations for good or bad. Once we start getting into sports groups operations, it's going to open up a whole world of needing policy revisions, and it'll become interesting.
Yeah, so it can be applied for other sports also, but what I'm trying to say is, if they are presenting their roster, now they have facilities in other cities, and they will be playing this one organization, maybe playing in different regions, right? For example, CCA plays in Cupertino, play in San Ramon, maybe playing in other places. The same thing with CFC playing in Pleasanton and all that. But then their kids are playing in their respective cities, but they all combine together because the budget reasons and also for immigrant like visas that they sponsor and all that, they have to show, they cannot show from each individual cities. So what I'm asking is, let's not try to solve here, but at least reach out to them and ask them what are their challenges. See, these are the organizations who are nonprofit organizations who are helping our community big time. They are the one we applaud for all the great success that we got it. It's our job to make sure we help them and see how we make them successful so that we are successful. So just talk to them, see if they may have some solutions.
We do talk to our groups, and I would say that all of our groups have, the majority of right now have turned in their rosters, all their rosters, and we have a couple of groups that serve multiple cities and they still turn in all the rosters. There is a group that also does, get coaches from either out of the country or out of the state. And so all of that's in there, and we definitely can work with the different groups. All we're asking simply from them is, can you please provide them? The difficulty is that it isn't provided. And so we would like it provided. So we definitely can ask them, more specifically. Again, it is in part of the policy to maintain the co-sponsorship, to offer and provide this information so that we can make sure and ensure that we are providing our San Ramon residents the most access and equitable access first and foremost. There are groups, yes, that are based out of other cities. Their nonprofit status comes from another city. We don't fault them for that. We just want to make sure that we have all the information that we need in order to help, allocate the space that we have. But we most certainly can continue to chat with groups.
That will be great, yeah.
I have a question for you, Councilmember Rose. You mentioned immigration twice. I'm curious, in what example would the city be obligated to help out with related to like the immigration status of a coach? And I'm not challenging it.
No, yeah.
I totally get your point, and it's empathetic, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to understand, like, do you want the city to say, oh, well, this visa is about to expire and we need to make an adjustment to it? I want to be very careful not to have the city touch into that that gray area related to status, but But please, if you could explain
Sure,
that.
sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, city cannot involve in the immigration, and also immigration don't even care about if city comes and says something, they don't even care about it. So in this case, I'm not asking city to involve in the immigration. What I'm trying to say is how the user groups can go through some challenges. I just want, because not every user group is same. Because let's say baseball, we have a lot of coaches within our community. We have soccer, we have a lot of coaches, right? But whereas these other groups, they have challenges in finding a coach. So what they have to go through is go through the immigration process, bring the coaches and all that. So there's some challenges that they go through. Now we take so much credit for all the great things that they've done for our community, right? That's like San Ramon. Now we always say, oh, our kids are going and playing in US and all those great things we are talking about. But then at the same time, it is our responsibility to listen to them and see what we can do to help them. We need to listen to them. That's as simple as that. When we are getting so much from them, why not we listen to them and see what we can do about it?
And we do, and that's, staff's primary job is to communicate with all field user groups. It's, when questions come into play, our fallback document is always the policy. So if it's in the policy, we are making sure, in particular, since this has been brought up, it was brought up in October. That's why we scheduled the meetings with the Parks Commission to review it prior to going to the council. There were questions about the timeline, so it went from November through January through the parks, and that's why we're bringing it here. It's staff's job. We will do whatever we can that's within the policy. And we make sure to follow the policy to provide equity across all groups.
No, again, I don't know why we keep on rotating in that equity, but anyway, that's the end of the day, that's what we want, right? There is no question about it. But when these nonprofits are working so hard and doing something for us, you need to communicate. If there is some gaps, then you need to bring it to the commission. You need to talk to commission. If you cannot do it, then at least let us know, or we will bring it up to the commission. So whichever way works, we will go with that option. But what I want to say or suggest is that let's be open-minded. Let's understand that each sport is different. Not all sports requirements are same. That's all I want to make sure that we understand. And also I want to see that it's been like, as I mentioned, when I started with Brad, this is in 2008. Now, do we have any staff member who understands the cricket?
We are learning cricket just as we're learning everything, with different groups that may come in. I personally have asked to learn more, and the group has been open to teach more. And we've done our investigation to learn more outside of going out and playing ourselves. But again, only 22 get on the field and we can't get in there and squeeze in there for the 4 hours. So we'll try and get there at some point too, but it'll be nice. But yeah, we're trying to learn.
Yeah, that will be great, right? That's how you can understand what are the challenges. That's because each age group got different requirements, and adult play a little different. So those things can help us when we are allocating. It will make it easy for us to understand what is going on.
And that's true. Each group is responsible to ask for what they need. But again, equity sometimes means that not everybody gets fully accommodated. So they ask for what they need. We understand that. But again, like I mentioned earlier, that's not necessarily part of the criteria. We will give the space. How they choose to schedule the space is really important for the group to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, we need to allocate based on our policy, end of the day. That's how it works. So those are my questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Let me turn it over to Vice Mayor Rubio.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So my first question is from page 5, the first talking point on the the requirements and eligibility. I was just wondering if you could clarify, define for me how this applies or doesn't apply to the current situation we have between the various cricket groups that have competing interests in time and a day allocation, where it says the organization must provide a different or enhanced level of service that is not already provided by the city or other co-sponsored groups. That's really confusing to me because in this situation, we have cricket groups that they're basically providing a similar service, right? But they're competing against each other's for days and times. So how does that apply? How does this talking point? fit
The
into
simple
this
term
whole
is
thing?
it doesn't, because this requirement for an organization to be considered for co-sponsorship, it must meet the requirements. When a new group comes in, this is what they must meet. So this is an added enhancement that the commission spoke about a little bit. I know something that was in previous iterations, but they wanted to kind of really say, hey, what is unique? What can they bring to the table? What's going to help us decide whether or not they become a co-sponsored group? So in this particular case, all the co-sponsor groups that are in here, those 14 are already 14 co-sponsor groups that aren't necessarily subject to requirements to become a new co-sponsored group. So in this
they're
particular case,
So they're excluded in this situation is what you're saying?
because
from that criteria?
they're already co-sponsored groups. So it's not a criteria that they're specifically having to meet to become one. And that's
Oh,
really,
okay.
this really addresses the new groups coming in.
Coming in. That's what I'm asking
That's the
about.
difference. So a new group coming in would have to then share with us part of their, I guess, application process, and their proposal to become a co-sponsor group would have to say, this is how we are different. This is how we would enhance the level of service.
Because that's going to be really important to clarify. I think this language here could use a little more fleshing out, to be perfectly honest with you, because especially as we anticipate our population to grow substantially in the years ahead, I can only imagine that the demand is going to go up as well. And as such, I think at some point we're going to require very clearly defined guidelines of when do we approve, not approve, or how do we deal with the constraints that exist? Are we going to build more cricket fields? Whatever that may be. But I think that it's going to be very, very important to clarify that language for those new groups that come in, because I think the demand is inevitable. It is going to increase. And so how are we planning for that? That's kind of my question.
If I can add really quick, Vice Mayor Rubio, and it's unfortunate that Mr. Blickenstaff left because it might answer some of his questions. We are currently at 60 planned parks, about 60. I forget. The city operated parks at about 60. So we have two more that need to come online. One would be the Woodlot, which will be primarily a passive park. That's what I'm hearing, and then Henry Ranch. After that, we are pretty much landlocked in for new parks. Trying to find space to either build a new park or new facilities will be quite the challenge. In addition to that, I've said this before, council can give us direction to build a new park, buy land. That doesn't scare me as much as the annual operating. And one of our issues with our financial constraints that we had with the budget deficit is, depending on our current calculations, each park is roughly $250,000 to $300,000 a year to maintain across all the parks. So adding new parks and more maintenance costs, that could be a service consideration for the future, but there would definitely need to be trade-offs in other services for the city. I also like to point out, it was shocking to me when we were calculating this, but each Olympic pool, and we have two of them, it's approximately $1.5 million a year to operate an Olympic pool. So when we hear we need more pool space, we need more pools, that is definitely there's a lot of constraints around it. So I believe this is going to be a great challenge for the future. I admit, whatever we build, I'm sure we can fill up. But I just don't know where the land will be available and how we'll be able to fund it.
So with that said, acknowledging that constraint, another constraint that we have, I think that we have to start thinking about, because one, I would assume that as our population grows, we get more people involved in these sports. It's also going to increase equally revenues that we get from that, because they have to pay to participate. So, but also I think that as we talk to developers and people who are coming here, they really have to all equally also make an investment into the community. And I think, this might be something for us to consider, how we factor those things in to make sure that we are able to maintain the quality of life that our residents have become accustomed to. I mean, we have to find a way to make it happen. And so I think the sooner we start brainstorming those ideas, the better. That's really what I'm getting at is, we need to start thinking about those things and how we're going to accommodate that demand.
One thing, can I chime in?
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Vice Mayor Rubio. Now, first thing is, I don't know why we are talking about general fund when we are talking about building this field, but we need to use Parks Development Fund. That's where the money come from for building. Okay, so now these groups, they are ready to work with the city and help city to invest, not only for the building and also for the maintenance. So we need to think out of the box, but otherwise if we keep on thinking that we are locked ourselves, then we'll never address the problem. We continuously keep these communities fight with each other and build an animosity between them by this scarcity. So we need to think how we solve these issues. So thanks for bringing that one.
Of course. Thank you for that added information as well. So the other thing is when it comes to, let me just make sure so I don't kind of go around. I was looking at page 42, which is 129 of the agenda packet, under the Tier 2 co-sponsorship. I was just wondering if you can clarify here a little further as well, because see, if we have, say, 2 Tier 1s and then comes in a Tier 2, and if the top 2 Tier 1s are already competing under limited resources, does T2 get denied, or are they still allocated? Are they still allocated some time and day? And what kind of algorithm or metric system are you using to determine what days and times, how many days and times, and what days and times?
Per the policy, and it's listed in there as how we kind of, look at what they, for one of the things is they got to tell us what they want. We try to best to meet all the needs that we can, but we certainly cannot meet all the needs. So I don't think one group got everything that they asked for in the last allocation. That being said, if the question is, does Tier 2 still get something allocated? Yeah, they're still a co-sponsor group, so we try and make every effort to give them some space. It may not be the field that they want. They may be asking for something at Tiffany Roberts, yet they end up getting something at Sunrise Ridge. Who knows? So it just may not be their first choice, but we try our best to accommodate in certain cases. There was a group who wanted one of, if we're sticking with the topic of the night, cricket, there was a cricket group, the adult cricket group asked for some space. We gave them some space here at Central Park. And they also do other ball diamonds outside of the cricket pitches. So yeah, we do our best to accommodate as much as we can.
And I understand that. And so at what point do you say, you know what, we can't accommodate any more people? Because unless we create more cricket fields, and at what point are we going to say, hey, because here's the thing. If you have Tier 1 groups that have been here for a long time and doing things, really contributing to the community for a long time, and then you have a problem, let's say several Tier 2 groups, not just where we're at, right? Where we're at, I think we can find a solution with proper planning, but I'm talking future. More Tier 2 groups start coming in. At what point do you say, you know what, we may risk severely hurting these Tier 1 groups that have perhaps been here longer and all of these things, or even the Tier 2 groups that have been here longer? At what point do you say we just can't accommodate anymore?
At the point that we review what is submitted, and from a staff level and then a commission level, that's the opportunity to say we just can't fit it. So it can start as early. If we had a new application that came in tomorrow based on this policy, we could, and if they met all the requirements or if they didn't, prove something to be, we'd have to look at capacity. If they wanted to go into a soccer field, do we have a soccer field? If we need another pool group, do we have another lane? We can't magically, make another lane. So we'd have to see, can it work? So the analysis would have to be done prior to submitting that information to the commission so that they had all of the information to make the best decision they can.
Right, the best possible decision in the circumstance, because, you know, there is sort of a threshold, that line of threshold where you kind of have to figure out, you know, are we still getting net gains, or are we now starting to actually hurt more than help, you know? And so, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You know, where have we defined that? I mean, I think it would be helpful to think about those things. I'm just putting it out there for future consideration, nothing to do with what's happening right now, because I think there's a path forward with where we're at. But I do think we need to start thinking about those things as, again, going back to the fact that I would anticipate that demand will increase.
Now, that was the commission comments, and that's where we feel that it's reflected in the current policy. And we understand that as the community evolves, so shall we.
Okay, great. And then, so the other thing is, in terms of helping the city facilitate, I think would be really helpful. I mean, especially it's really hard for people. They're very passionate about the sport and whatever they're doing. I mean, they're passionate. This is their you know, this is their sort of their love, what brings them happiness, you know. What have you thought about? I think it's important for the city to think about how they can better facilitate conversations to help, you know, like as was mentioned by the attorney, you know, we do have an appeal process, but just like, say, for example, a divorce, right? You want to have mediation first. You want to help mediate. What I think it is important for the city to think as well about what their role is to help facilitate mediation. So that, because it is a very personal and sensitive issue, and make sure that, you know, people are able to feel safe and be able to openly speak about their concerns and feel that they're being heard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the comment, yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I think we need to think about process a little more in terms of how we go about that when we tell people, well, go facilitate it. We can't just kind of toss them outside and say, go figure it out. Maybe there's more the city could do to try to be a facilitator in that capacity, just to help them at least try to hear them. Again, going back to what Councilmember Veros said, you know, it is important for us to hear back from our groups, from all of them, so that we can learn and improve all of our operations, policies, and procedures as it pertains from the application process to the actual experience they have out in the field or the pool or what have you. I think this is one aspect of that, and it would be helpful to look into that.
Yeah,
I believe we do.
but we have offered to facilitate. We've facilitated groups before. But also there's nothing that we can do to compel somebody to participate. So if a group says, no, we don't want to meet, nowhere in our policy says if you don't meet, then you lose your field allocation. We've had, there's been a large amount of staff time involved with some of these groups. We've had some groups on a Friday email us saying, everything's solved, we're great. And then Monday, no, we're not again. So we try to stay out of some of the political aspects of the groups, but we have offered with groups. We have met with groups before. We've facilitated meetings. It's just we have nothing that requires them to meet with each other.
Certainly. And I can understand that, by the way. I mean, that makes perfect sense. You can end up like just going in circles for a really long time. And that's why it's important to have really clarified process for that. That should be spelled out very clearly, how that mediation process, not just the appeal process, takes place. And then what I would also say, here's something I don't think anybody's thought about, but are there ways we can incentivize, you know, cooperations from competing groups?
Are there ways? There's certain ways, but I think it really is kind of, you have to talk to the other group. They have to get together and kind of chat. I think some of the incentives that we've seen in the past, let's say the softball group will talk to the soccer group and say, hey, you give me this day and I'll make sure that we're available for you when you get, so that is part of the process. So as far as us incentivizing them, I think the incentive is that I get the space and they get to use the space when they need the space for whatever event. And that really kind of comes through their communication. Outside of trying to say monetize it or anything like that, they pay to utilize the facility, not a lot. But in that case, I'm not really sure what other incentives they can get, whether they have priority, they have use of space. So have we thought about different ways to help them? Sure, I can't say that we've tried to tag it to something that if you do this, you get that, like a little quid pro quo thing. I'm not sure that we've really done that because again, at the end of the day, we're trying to, be equitable about it and really try
And we want to encourage
Yeah.
people to
Yeah.
cooperate with each other.
Yeah, we do.
So what I'm saying, it's not just money, but it could be saying, hey, what is your peak training season? Maybe for one group, a certain quarter is more important than another one, and they can trade off that
That
way.
happens.
And so what I'm saying is that, if we can find ways to incentivize cooperation, quid pro quo that's not what it is, because that would be like one of us doing that, but that's not the case. We're talking about trying to encourage cooperation. And that's something we should always be striving for in the community at every level.
Well, could
So,
I make,
so I think,
sorry.
so I just want to say before, and I'm glad I'm sparking conversation. This is good. But I do think it's important for us to think about ways that we can do that. Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I understand everybody's hearts and minds in the right place, but I want to be very careful here that what I don't want is I don't want the City and the Parks Commission to play mediator or any judiciary position whatsoever. I think that's a dangerous slippery slope. A lot of this, and forgive me for saying this, but it seems like a cultural infighting, which happens between, same culture, and they're competing with such a passionate sport. This conversation's about the policy, right? And I want to stick to that. The ideas that are generated are wonderful, but I don't think, and I don't want to overstep the city attorney's boundary, but I don't think the city should be involved whatsoever in facilitating any conversation or trying to mediate or amend any relationship. If there's a suggestion, I don't know if there's a suggestion loop where you could receive feedback. Maybe there is, I don't know.
We always receive feedback.
Right, then-
The door is open for that.
Great, then I think, is there a liaison on the Parks Department that talks to these groups outside that can facilitate?
We do have commissioners from time to time that will go in there as part of the meeting to make sure that as they liaison for other groups as well. But yes, I think specifically staff is there and available for them as well.
Perfect. I just asked that the council, we don't initiate any mediation or type of into this policy. And I'd like to stick to updates or changes to the policy related to the tiers, related to sponsorship, related to the rules. But outside of that, these are great ideas, but yeah, so I'll just leave it at that, but
All
that's.
right, City
that's my
Manager, you
point.
have something to say?
Just a brief comment that I hope will help kind of reset the context of what we're talking about. Much of what's being discussed is already happening. We do work well with groups. The city, provides them opportunities to talk. A lot of what's being suggested is already happening. This policy works very, very well. I think what we're going down is a bit of a slippery slope with a specific example that doesn't necessarily represent the whole situation going on in the city. So there is a bit of controversy between two groups, but our experience with the policy, with the program over the years has generally been very good and things have been running very well. So we do, implement a lot of what's being suggested tonight is already being implemented.
And so I'd like to respond to what has been said by the city manager and council member Joinette really quick. What I am suggesting is that the clear that we can be about our policy and what we do and don't do can actually prevent future misunderstanding and complications. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you haven't done it. I'm not saying there's no language, it doesn't exist, it's obsolete. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that clearly we have a situation where there wasn't enough clarity. And so let's look at ways, problem solving. How can we improve that process if there's a way to make it really clear what it is we do and don't do, and to what extent? Just to be clear, because I do agree that without that clarity, it is a slippery slope. So we need to have that. That's actually what I'm getting at. We need to have very clearly defined policies and procedures. And there are some areas here that are just, it's just sort of, there's a little bit of a void. And that void can create problems, you know, sometimes, and more complication. And so the more we can crystallize that and harden that a little bit, I think can avoid potentially, it's a work in progress, right? You know, future complications.
And
what
that's
I
why
get.
we're presenting tonight. That's why we presented to the Parks Commission. They gave recommendations for clarifying the policy. We're here tonight. If council has any clarifications, we can look at that and then bring it back to the council for formal.
And so that's my suggestion, and of the many, including, you know, forecasting and planning for the future and how we can raise those funds that will be needed for future demand. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, let me go back to Councilmember Rose for a second.
Yeah, on Vice Mayor Rubio's comment about, and I want to make sure that Councilmember Joynet also understand that when staff assigns, allocates, if any group feel that they are not being allocated appropriately or whatever the policy was not followed, then that's where the challenge comes. But then today I heard city manager mentioning that once the appeal is received, he's working on that policy. So that gap will be filled hopefully with that, and that should help us resolving these kind of situations in the future. So this is not like you're asking our staff to mediate into their groups. What ask is to make sure that when someone has a concern, as they are our nonprofit organizations, they are not someone coming somewhere. They are part of our community. They are serving our community. And we take a lot of credit for their services. So it's our obligation to make sure that whatever the appeal they are coming with, we hear that appeal and we have a process. So I'm glad that already city manager is working on that. I'll look forward for that.
Appeal to the policy, not the infighting or the disagreement between the two groups.
That is a part of the appeal. It
That's
could
what
be.
I'm saying.
Yeah, that could be part of the appeal.
Okay, I think it's my turn for questions.
Sure.
I think we've done most of the comments too. But I guess my question is that if there was a user group that had been established for 3 years and came to you today and said, I want to get in on the schedule, do you tell them, sorry, you got to wait till we start the next cycle or something like that? How often can a new user group, you know, could somebody get added to the 14 that exist now? Kind of midstream here, mid-year?
It would really kind of come to the beginning of the falls when they would, so the last group that came in, I believe, came in the summer, but officially, I think, was allocated not till that next fall. So they can come in, the process can come through and they can be approved, but really it would be on the next regular cycle, because essentially it's a couple of things happen. One, there's an allocation that we distribute for the year, kind of here's the big calendar, but then we're going to go quarter by quarter to confirm what you're going to get for that quarter. But with those allocations are there, if there is space and we're able to do, you know, some space, you know, we'll accommodate the best we can. But again, then there would be, I guess, criteria or priority 4 at that point. So, but they can come in anytime they want to propose their co-sponsorship. It just makes most sense to put them at at one time a year to kind of go into the actual allocation process.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then I want to go back to the idea of the subject of rosters again for a second. I was looking on page 15 of the policy, which is page 102 of the packet, and under item 6, participants and coaches, under A. The last sentence says roster should include all participants associated with the organization. Is that too soft of a term? Or should maybe it say rosters must include all participants associated with an organization? Because are you giving them, because I think I heard that we're not getting all the rosters or all the participants on these.
We haven't gotten them all as of yet. There's one group specifically that we've asked for a full roster, not just, we've been provided only San Ramon resident roster, but we haven't done a full organizational roster. And that's what we're asking for. And so I guess, sure, could a word change make a difference? But we also stand by all rosters, meaning all rosters. So I suppose, that could be a change in the future.
Well, something to maybe to look at if it's appropriate. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. I'll just sort of make my comment right now. Well, one comment is in terms of, future parks and things like that. We were talking about that for a little bit, but we also are looking at not just park development fund, but some of the developers doing these privately owned, publicly accessible parks where they might incur the lion's share of the future maintenance, operations and maintenance of those parks. So that's another option as well. And then I just want to appreciate the presentation here. This is the first time I've kind of dug into this policy. And so it gave me a chance to kind of read through it and better understand it. And I can certainly appreciate the challenge that the staff has of putting this all together, trying to balance so many things when you got a certain amount, it's like supply and demand. You got so much supply, but you got a lot more demand. You got to prioritize. And this policy helps establish that prioritization. So I appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to open up public comment. Do we have any comment cards?
Yes, we received one speaker card from Hemet.
Okay. Evening, Hemet.
Hello, council members and respected mayor, also the staff, city manager, and entire staff here. My name is Hemant Buch, and recent Cricket Hall of Fame inductee for contribution for last 23 years to promote game in the Bay Area entirely. We are the only organization in San Ramon whose coach actually lives in San Ramon also. And also, we just did a free clinic this weekend in about 4 different cities. About 180 kids came, out of which 68 kids were from San Ramon when we did it in the GRMS field. So the growth is amazing. The feedback was that they want some competition. They don't want monopoly. And, they have seen some value of competition when there is a lot of demand and growth. And, as a city, I understand the challenges. Thank God you still don't have that much of a noise from pickleball, which I think you should feel good about. Otherwise, I'm sure it's coming soon. But one of my solution has been that I've invested more than, I would say, $1.5 million with different partnerships with schools and cities. So with city of San Jose, we are putting a field in Cataldi Park. With Cupertino City, we completely overhauled one of the schools that was closed, and we prepared international field where Major League Cricket is going to do their practice, not games, but their practice on our field. That's how good it has been. So my suggestion is that we encourage public-private partnerships, and there are things that can be done faster, and that can be done with a reasonably less cost, because I understand the obligations that city has to go through. So I highly encourage that. And I just want to thank all of you for your open mind. Some of the suggestions I heard were really good. And I also want to thank the staff for some amazing work they did and their open mind and bold moves to promote games. And, good luck when the pickleball comes.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Any other speaker cards?
No.
Okay, all right, then I'll close public comment and kind of back over to council for any closing comments.
I just want to thank Henry and the staff for the presentation. I appreciate it. As the mayor mentioned, this is my first look into the policy. It's good that it does change, so it's not something that's static. And thank you for taking a look at it since the last time, since 2018, was it? Since the last one. So thank you for coming in already. You've been here, what, 7 months, 8 months? Yeah. So thank you for tackling it head on, you and the staff. So, but what was that phrase? Buy land because God's not making any more of it, right? Type thing. I wonder if, we look at urban cities with denser populations, they have more of a vertical. They build vertical. So there's subterranean, vertical. Has that ever been brought up where you take some of these buildings and you say, you know what, let's convert it to a multi-purpose indoor soccer, indoor football?
We have seen that. We try and keep track of industry standards and new ideas of how to do stuff. But we have seen indoor facilities take over on all sports. If they're able to do it, they'll do it. If there's space to rent or purchase, that can happen. That is a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand the sports and the youth and the correlation because that discipline is really good for the youth. So thank you to you and the staff. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
Yeah. Oh, did you want to? Oh, sorry. So I just want to make, and city manager, I don't know if this is this appropriate time or not, just to make sure to summarize what I had asked for consideration for staff to consider.
Well, in order for us to
bring
act.
back to the Parks Commission to discuss and all of that.
We would need 3 nodding heads.
Okay, so here's what I'm proposing, which I originally brought up, is talking about our policy as it pertains to developers who bring proposals forward and making sure that we are allocating funds not just for Iron Horse Trail or parks, but actually for facilities, whether that's libraries or that's cricket or any sports, because some of these demands, some of these facilities are going to start feeling strained. And we need to start planning for that and making sure that developers are basically community allies and helping to make sure that we are able to maintain the quality of life that our residents are accustomed to. So in this case, we're talking on parks and community services. So what we're talking about is identifying ways in which developers can become partners in making sure that we are providing adequate facilities to the residents, the future population that they will be housing, and helping to offset those costs of maintenance costs. And also, the second point I had brought up, let's see, really clearly defining more clearly under requirements and eligibility, that definition of the organization, that first talking point, the organization must provide a different or enhanced level of service that is not already provided by the city or other co-sponsors. Is there a breakdown after all? Was there a page with exact breakdown of what would qualify as different or enhanced level? Or it's just a broad term?
It is intended, and this was a discussion the commission had as well. I mean, it was also utilized as the word unique. It is intended to be a little bit more, I would say, on the gray, so that the onus becomes on the applicant to show how they're going to, how their program enhances and or is different than others. So it's specifically, as I come into you, I need to essentially convince the commission that this is why I should be considered to be a co-sponsored group, and this is what I'm bringing to the table.
Okay, because I mean, personally, like Mr. Hemet Bush mentioned, I don't want to limit people. I want people to play. I want as many people who want to play to be able to play. But I also certainly don't want people to feel that they're competing for such limited resources that it creates animosity between anyone in our community. And so I really want to work on more clearly defining what those definitions mean, as well as what is a threshold of when you talk about resources, what is that threshold? If there is conflict, prior to reaching the point of having to go through a formal appeal process, what role, if any, can staff play to just reassure residents that we are hearing them and that we are supportive of them and their concerns and addressing their concerns to the best of our ability, really defining what that is so that we don't end up in that slippery slope that was discussed earlier. And then I think the last part was, hold on a second. I'm trying to remember.
Well, I can come back to it and get some other comments.
I have.
Well-
I mean, okay, you know what? But it's something that I'm trying to propose, but I need 3 nodding heads to be able to have that happen. So I was trying to put it all, say it all at once. That's why I was doing that. But anyway, I think that those 3 things, where's our threshold? Well, how do we clarify the language on how we determine, do we have space, not have space? Where's that threshold? Clarifying language on what enhanced level of service is. And also, like I said, identifying ways to raise the funds necessary to expand, facilities that are needed for a growing community through, for example, developers who bring proposals forward to us.
And those are things for clarification that you would like to see in future policy updates of this policy? Or just to have as part of a future discussion with the, I just want to make sure that, because I'm looking at the policy, and if it's gonna, there's one that I can see as capacity.
Community development.
I think it's there's definitely the component with the developer side of it and the maintenance costs, offsetting those costs could be more of a policy issue. And I think the other 2 are more as a recommendation
So
for the parks.
if I may summarize what I'm hearing and,
Yes.
and just to see if we're all on the same page. So the discussion about developers and new facilities and how we would meet future demand, what I would suggest, we are talking about providing an overview of the amenities that we're going to be getting with the city core and what phases they're coming in. I know that's a discussion that's been out there for a while. We could outline what opportunity sites we may have in the city. I did mention earlier the woodlot. There is, discussion of it being more of a passive park due to community preference and also funding availability. Technically, that could be a sports field, but then you would have to engage the neighborhood. That's one site. Henry Ranch, I believe, might have some opportunities for additional sports fields, but we can provide an overview to the council of what is also out there as an opportunity. If we don't have the sites, it's kind of full stop. Developers, the future agreements that we have with parks, I believe those are already pretty much set in stone as to what the parks are and what features they would have depending on where they're located. Some of the developer-operated parks are going to be right within arm's length of an apartment complex. So there's, considerations as to, okay, are you playing sports? Is it even big enough? But we can provide that overview to the council at a future meeting. It may not happen because we have a lot of items that are starting to back up. But if that's what I'm hearing, would that satisfy the first request of talking about what's our capacity, how we can fund? This also plays into the budget process, which we're just starting.
Right.
And what we do with the parks fee. I've heard
Right.
a little bit of discussion about that. We could wrap all that together in a nice, neat package and presentation for the council.
I would love that. I think it's important. We need to start planning for those additional pressures that we're going to have inevitably as the population grows and more resources are needed, all kinds of resources, including this. So I just think that that's necessary. I would love that. And
If that's
you
the
need-
pleasure of the council, I can bring that back for a presentation.
I would love that.
Okay. I have
Thank you.
3 solidly nodding heads and maybe I don't mean to judge the veracity or whatever you want to call it, not the veracity.
We need a little.
Wrong word. The
but-
veracity, whatever you want to call it, of the nodding heads, but I just wanted to
Right.
make sure that I had 3. And then, yeah, the frequency. And then the other item was, now, do you want it to come back to council, or am I hearing that the Parks Commission look at defining the requirements, a further definition of the word unique?
Mhm.
And that's
Yes.
one of them. Okay, so that's one. And this would be for the Parks Commission to review?
Commission. I think this is their job. This is their sort of their work. I don't want to overstep my boundaries on that, but I certainly am kind of providing some recommendation that I think may alleviate future complications. The other thing it was the same thing, going back to parks, is clarifying sort of where's that threshold. If we have several groups already, where do we draw the line? What defines there's just too many people asking for the same resources and we don't have more capacity? Where's that threshold? And how we define that? Also,
If I may,
You
I'll
know,
ask, we are having the field study coming up that will help define that.
that's great. That's great. I would, if you can provide that to us too, when that becomes available, just let me know. I would love to learn more about that, because that also factors in, even if we do add in more groups to already a very high demand slot, what algorithm are we using? And I'm pretty sure that study will maybe flesh out some of that information that we need. We talk about the word equitable. In order to be equitable, we need that information. And I think the last thing was, which perhaps my word incentivize cooperation was not optimal, but I think what I would say is, let's talk about, there's ebbs and flows in terms of demand. Some teams maybe there's a seasonal component. This could be something the study could address. Are there things that we've noticed? Do certain teams have peak times or peak periods where they can work? Just like, for example, even if you go to the movie theater, if you go to the first show of the day, you're going to get a discount. Yeah, maybe there is something we can consider if somebody is willing to be more flexible when we're having constraints. Those are things that I think are equitable. It may even provide the opportunity for a group that could maybe not participate because it was too expensive for them, the opportunity to participate. So I wouldn't take it off the table. I think that's something I would really like the Parks Commission to think about. Does that make sense or no?
Yes and no. I mean, because it's, in a sense, we do that already. There is the opportunity to understand the ebbs and flows of the different groups. They communicate with us what they need, even to the point of, let's say, the use patterns of the field. Like right now, I can tell you Friday nights, not a big night, but there are some groups that say, hey, if that's the only time I can get, I'm going to take Friday night. So we do recognize that as a whole. What I'm trying to clarify is in what discussion might the commission further dive into that, but we can definitely.
So they say there's like availability on different days and times, right? Like right now, I was looking at the hours, and a lot of these groups are having the same slot of hours. So maybe there's a way to incentivize opening up other time slots that may work for them. And what I mean by that is, for example, like you go to the matinee show at the theater, you go to the first show of the day, you get the ticket costs a little less because you're going to the first show when most people aren't going. So that's what I'm talking about.
Understand that. Again, with even with the limitations of some of these are at school facilities, so they only can get it at a certain time. So those are things that are in there. But I do believe that the field use study will allow us at least to look at the fields versus, obviously the pools and the gyms. But that is something that I believe that some of those answers will already be taken care of through that study.
That's great. And I look forward to seeing perhaps, I'm giving you this feedback as a guide, maybe something to consider as you're looking at the results of that study. Thank you.
Right, so if I'm getting it clear, you're asking the Parks Commission to look at those aspects again of the policy. Then do we want it brought back to the council, or would you like a memo summarizing the Parks Commission changes just sent to the council?
I think it's just the latter is fine. Just an
Memo.
updated memo with what you find and just so that we have that information. And then, of course, that will be eventually, I'm sure if it's confirmed and approved by the Parks Commission, it will eventually be completely included and available to the public as well.
Yes, as soon as, if there's any changes to the policy, then the policy is published and that's what stands until
Exactly.
there's additional changes. So we can kick it back to Parks Commission for further discussion and then a memo to the council if that's direction.
I see the pros and cons to this, but I don't want to override what the Parks Commission does. So I'm hesitant to say, hey, have us sort of, I would love to get an update on it. I think that would be helpful, us to get an update on it, on those 3 points regarding from information from the study. But I think at the end of the day, how it's implemented or enacted upon, or maybe not at all. It would be great also in that presentation to get feedback about what the Parks Commission decided to do with that.
If I may on that one too, and I'll ask staff just to confirm this. I do believe when we did speak with the commission, they wanted to look at the policy more regularly or just get updates on that stuff too, I think they did request that. So I think this falls within that. So this current policy as approved will move forward. They wanted to make sure we're taking note of how the changes go and then also recognize that there's going to be some administrative things that go and then anything that substantially changes it, they want to have a deeper conversation. But I think that some of the suggestions really at the moment are probably wrapped up through that study. Then we can then point back to and say, hey, this might help us address the capacity issue, address what what do we think new can fit here, all of those things. So if it's okay, I'd like to kind of continue with that prior to really kind of diving in again and just making sure we have all the information to move forward with that.
Correct. I'm saying once you have the information on those 3 points that I've mentioned, if you could bring back information from the study, as well as perhaps any feedback you've gotten from Parks Commission on that. It would be just really helpful, I think, for us as a council to have that. For us to play more of a supportive role, because I do also want to respect, like I said, what the Parks Commission does, but it is something that, I think it's information that will help guide us with a clear purpose and vision going forward.
So if I may make a suggestion, the 3 points that you suggested, we will be sure at the next review at the Parks Commission to make sure that they know, hey, council would like you to focus on these 3 areas. They did say that they would like regular reviews of the policy. So we can make sure that those are points of emphasis, if that's okay with the council. Look at these 3 areas for potential improvements. And then separately, when we have the field use study, we can also provide those results to the council in a memo format. Hey, here's what the field use study found. And if the Parks Commission acts or changes anything based on that study, we make sure that the council's aware as well. Does that sound?
I appreciate. Yes, that would be wonderful. I think that'd be a wonderful follow-up for us to get and to sort of have an update on all of that. And if I have the support of my fellow council members, I think do you need 2 more nodding heads other than mine?
Yeah, I need 2 more nodding
Okay,
heads,
we
so
need 2 nodding
I don't know if
heads.
there's a question or.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the policy as is for now, and I know you're going to review it periodically. And I think providing feedback to the Parks PCS Commission, I think that's good. All this feedback provided back to them for consideration.
Okay,
Hopefully they're watching and they're hearing this firsthand. So
Yes.
that would be the ideal situation to get it directly from the council.
okay. Well,
we will-
thank
we
you.
will do
So do
that.
we have,
Yep.
okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Councilmember.
Thanks, Henry. I know you came in middle of all this storm that going on with these policies and all that. Appreciate your leadership, jumping in and working on this policy. And thanks to Commission again for going through all these details, fleshing out. It's like, as you said, it's a big puzzle. And we need to work together with our nonprofit organizations because these organizations are not someone else. They are part of our community. Let's continue to work with them and see how we can help them to make them success so that their success is nothing but our community youth or as well as adult whoever is playing sports. It's a success for them, right? So it's very important. And as Vice Mayor Rubio mentioned, she pretty much covered most of my points. Only every time when I bring about this cricket field, one thing I always hear is that we don't have money. Okay, so this is a very normal. I'm not surprised because this is from day one, the third field every time it happens, but that's okay. What I want to make sure that let's not make comments like it is coming from general fund. That's not true. The money is coming from Park Development Fund. Also, let's not lock ourselves thinking that, oh, we don't have money, so we cannot do this. No, let's work with those nonprofit organizations. They may be ready to help us. Community may be ready to help us, or there is a lot of options. We need to explore. That's all we need to do, right? So that's how we can address this scarcity situation rather than continue to create this scarcity and make our community to fight with each other and create this animosity. Let's solve this problem, help them, and provide some solution for their problem. That's my thought process. And another thing is I still want to make sure that on the all roster sharing thing, let's make sure we have a clarity on that. When you're saying that if you need whatever the other cities that they are serving, even you need that information also, in that we need to be clear on that policy. Right now in our policy, it is not states about other. What it says is San Ramon residents only. So we need to.
I don't think that policy, I think it's all rosters.
It doesn't say, like, for example, if that organization is serving, let's say Pleasanton, or if they have a separate, because they build these different organizations based on the requirement of the cities. If that's the case, that's fine. Even if you say that, okay, no, we need to create, then we need to give them sufficient time so that they come out with their solution, how they need to create. For example, if CCA is being asked, are they providing all, like just now he mentioned, like he conducted within the whole US, right? So is he providing all the US roster? I just.
To clarify, the CCA is a nonprofit based in San Ramon. So therefore they provide all their rosters based on that. Other organizations who may have a like ServGal, nonprofit, I believe is in Danville. They provide all of their rosters because they serve not only San Ramon, Danville, I think Dublin, and other areas. Same thing. So if you have and in this particular case too, one of the cricket groups has they are based in Pleasanton. Therefore, all their rosters from their organization is what we're asking for. And that's the same thing that we're asking all. And we do give them a timeline that says you should have it by this time. Some folks are actually getting extended time in order to provide that information, and we're trying to work really well with them to give them that opportunity to give them, because we don't want them not to have it. We just want to have the information we need based on the policy.
Okay. Did you share that information that the nonprofit organizations, if they have it in San Ramon, that's how they can present. So maybe they're missing
if they want to ask about it, but ultimately, I think that's a misconception by some that's saying that someone's based somewhere else when they may not be. But ultimately, what we're asking of them, again, is just all rosters.
Okay, that solves the problem then. So they just need some timeline. So provide them some timeline so that they can come back. Okay, that's pretty much, definitely I want to see additional cricket field as soon as we can. So what we need to do for that? Could you please?
Well, we would need direction from the city council. If you want to add that to a future agenda of an analysis of where we can install additional cricket pitches, I would need a majority of the council to direct that. I do have to add that that's adding another item to the agenda. We may be bringing an item before the council in the future showing everything that's starting to back up. That can also be discussed during the budget process, because you are correct. We do have money. It's based on where the council wants to put it in what pot. Right now, when we are talking about adding additional capacity for one sport, The only locations that we have would be taking away from others. So that's another balance consideration. I know we initially looked at 2 or 3 locations, and all the locations are either in the high 6 figures or, the low 7 figures to convert over. It's either moving lighting structures, drainage, leveling areas, moving pathways. So it is a bigger discussion, but it's up to the council how you want to budget the money. We don't have it in this year's budget, but you can definitely include it in next year's if we identify a location and if the council decides to spend money on that item.
Okay, so let's make it, to make it easy, like I know you keep, this is very normal thing that I keep hearing. Every time I ask for cricket field, one thing keep coming is, we don't have money, but.
I didn't say that.
No, this is how it always conversation starts. And I know how I deal with this one, so let's do this one. How about, why don't you ask the field users if they are ready to chip in?
And we can do that. We'd have to bring
Yeah.
an item to the council with a contract with the field users, but we would need to identify a site and a cost first to know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, so you seek their help, they'll help on that one.
And I think it's 2 separate things. We need to find what options are available to build new pitches, develop the cost, and then work with the groups to see what we're playing with. Are we tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars? We just don't know.
Yeah, so I worked with Kathy on that one before, and she even provided the locations. I don't know, suddenly that disappeared after she left, but
They haven't. That's what I referred to as we analyzed 3 sites, and it's up to the council. If you'd like to prioritize talking about a new cricket pitch that is completely under the purview of the council, I need that direction at a meeting to move forward, and also a timing. So when would you like to see that?
I'm just wondering, is there any way that, because it sounds to me like, if we, it's kind of 2 things. One is we have to bring in money, right? So we want to bring in money, which is what we already agendized for a future agenda item. That was the first thing that I mentioned.
We talk about source.
Right, so that's, that was the first out of 4 items, but the other 3 were separate because that's going towards the study. So one of them is bringing in money. How do we bring in the money so that we can fund these things that are being needed right now and certainly will be definitely needed more so in the near future? So I think that item we have already on the table. Perhaps what may be helpful, just so we have clarity and we're not sort of compounding too many things. Now, we create a separate agenda item for what Councilmember Veros is talking about, is having an overview of what available spaces we have for future cricket spaces that would actually be functionally available and in the future.
I can answer that right now because I've had that discussion with various parties. It's either Central Park, which would require the central concrete pathway that goes through the middle of Central Park to be moved, and also some of the lighting to be moved. That's when you start to get into the 7-figure range. It could be Tiffany Roberts Field, which also has outdoor lighting for nighttime baseball. That lighting would have to be either moved and or removed. Plus, there's a drainage facility in the middle of the field. So that drainage would have to be rerouted and everything leveled. Or it could be the synthetic field at Rancho San Ramon, which would remove year-round soccer. And you're removing the synthetic field, all of the base rock, adding turf and dirt and irrigation. And that could be another 7-figure. So we have talked about this internally and with various groups. It can be presented to the council. All the options would need to be further refined. Those are just initial kind of back of the napkin estimates. But, as you get into the process, we need to make sure that we have all the costs lined up. Provide a situation.
And sort of, Councilmember Rose, if you just let me know if you're okay with the suggestion. It's just because I sort of feel like, you can't go shopping without the money, so we need the money. We need to find ways to secure the funds. And then I certainly think that that's important too, at the same time, but he also made an additional point is many of the community members are very passionate about this. They would be willing to also be part of that solution in making sure that it's funded. And I think that that's kind of also what he's getting at. And if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yep, that's one thing. And second thing is, let's not lock ourselves always thinking that, okay, 3 places you mentioned, right? There could be more places. Why don't we talk with that field users and see what they think about it?
And it depends on the criteria. So what we've discussed and what was asked before was to look for areas that had a certain diameter, for the games, for adults and for kids to play. We've had those discussions of, okay, what diameter are we looking for? And we had our GIS staff member look at the entire map of the city as to where it would fit. And those were the 3 locations that we currently own that a pitch could be installed. So we're not trying to limit. I'm just trying to express that we have done the research. I'm not trying to put up any barriers. We've worked on it. And if the council would like to further discuss, we would either need to agendize it as a separate agenda or we would need it as an agenda item or direction from the council to put the work in. It is a significant amount of work to come up with preliminary designs to get the price tag before we start talking numbers, because we really don't know the full cost. Again, it's estimates. Now, there is park development money that could go towards any of these projects. That money is currently going towards Crow Canyon Garden and a few other projects based on council prior direction. We're also going to be bringing to the council the Boone House renovation. So it will be a matter of priority. The Boone House, I believe the initial estimates were 5 to 7 million.
5.1 million.
To restore. So we'll be bringing that before the council, and it will be part of the budget process where you can fund whatever you want. You also have to give up items in order to fund, because it's a zero-sum game. So it's whatever the direction of the council.
And mentioning, now that you mentioned the Boone Farm, there's a perfect example where the community is, striving to be a partner in helping to raise those funds. So that may be something that maybe that's why I'm saying, I think bringing in the money, it's like, is going to be very important for us to start to explore what our options are and what's feasible or not.
If somebody offers a check for a project, that's great. We're not going to turn anybody down. We will talk with them. We need the proper agreements in place. We need to make sure that it's budgeted by the council and that we know the number. I don't think, if somebody approaches us and says we have 100,000 or 200,000 right now, then okay, then we need direction to make that a priority to get these estimates, and also, consider the impacts to the field uses that you'd be losing.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So instead of keep on thinking that we need millions of dollars to get this one, why don't we have a conversation with the field users and see if they have any creative solution that they have?
We're happy to hear any solution. We've heard that, we need a pitch of a certain size. We did the research. We came up with the 3 locations. Again, if council wants a presentation on that, and you want more in-depth discussion, if you direct us to do that, we'll do that.
If I may too, Stephen, I know, again, the field use study is going to help determine some of the needs that are here. The field user groups will be a part of that process, so we will be able to hear that. If there's certain things that we as a city want to make sure the consultants are aware of, like, potential demand for one sport or another, we can certainly send that with them so that they could either confirm or show how that all might work as well. So that is also going to be coming not only to the commission, but I would assume that's coming to you folks as well, because some decisions will need to be made based on that as well.
So by when we are expecting that?
We haven't even gone to RFP quite yet, but we're working through that process right now. That was a mid-year adjustment that we just asked for so that we can move forward. So we're hoping within the next few months, we'll be able to start that process.
Few months, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see the field use, whatever the results are of the field use study, because we're talking cricket an awful lot tonight, but there's a lot of other sports that may be short in terms of their field allocation as well. So we got to balance it and make sure everybody's being considered here as well. And then the only other final thought I had in terms of funding is, I know at one point we had started to go down the road of looking into field sponsorships. I don't know where that stands right now, but maybe at some point, if we could get the council updated email or whatever, or a phone
We can-
call or something.
We
on
can
what-
look into that. And just to Councilmember Verosa's point too, again, within the new policy, we talk about field enhancements that the groups could participate in. We have 8 different proposals that are sitting on our table right to review and potentially include in the upcoming new year policy. So, and those are groups that are willing to either fund fully or partially some added additions. Again, could be lights, could be scoreboards, could be additional fields or
Yeah.
batting cages. So all that
Right,
stuff.
and
is
I'm talking
also part of-
beyond user groups. I'm
Correct,
talking
correct.
about, could be
Yeah.
corporate, could
Correct.
be other sponsors that might want to sponsor a particular field to
Correct.
help us with operations maintenance in the future.
Exactly. And that's part of that discussion that I'm talking about. We've already agendized. And I think that's why it's important. We have to start thinking outside the box, how we drive revenue and bring that in for the things that the city is needing and will even more so need in the future.
Any other final comments?
Only to thank Henry for standing up for about an hour and a half to answer these questions, and appreciate it. You conveyed a lot of information, and we all appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
He's an ex-Marine. He can stand for a long time.
You got it.
He's a Marine. He
He's
can
a
handle it.
Marine. He's used to it. Ah,
All right, thank you,
Thank
Henry.
you very much.
thank you, Henry.
All right, very good. With that, we're going to move on to item 10, city manager and city council members' comments and matters initiated.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief, and hopefully I'm not stepping on your toes on this one, but I usually give updates for future events. And the next big event that I want to make sure the community knows about is the San Ramon Chamber of Commerce will host the annual State of the City address from the mayor. The reason why I'm bringing it up tonight, the deadline for signing up for the lunch is tomorrow. So go to sanramon.org to sign up if you would like a lunch. If not, members of the public are free to attend and watch the State of the City address. The event begins at 11 a.m. and that's on Wednesday, March 4th. Also, a recording of the presentation will be available on the city website about 7 to 10 days after the event. And the other item that I'd like to highlight is on Friday, there will be an earthquake town hall. The San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District is hosting an informational event on the recent earthquakes, and that is this Friday, February 27th at 10:30 a.m. at the San Ramon Community Center. Attendees will hear from Dr. Angie Lux, a seismologist and project scientist at the Berkeley Seismology Lab, who specializes in earthquake warning systems. San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District Chief Jonas Aguilar, and some elected officials will speak as well. The event is free and open to the public, and that's my update for the evening.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let me start down with Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mayor. You'll be glad to know I didn't have that many meetings, but last Tuesday I went to Teen Council, and one of the two main discussion topics was the 2026 Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award. And they have an ad hoc committee that's going to be taking applications for the Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award. And they're also, they're going to, put that in the Teens in Action page that we have on the City of San Ramon website. And they're going to be accepting those submissions from November through May. Awards, I believe, are going to be in May for that award. They also approved participation in the City of San Ramon Arbor Day celebration. So they're going to get the teens out there. It's the 154th anniversary of Arbor Day, which will be April 18th. So that's going to be at the farm, Forest Home Farms, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they'll be celebrating the importance of trees, environmental stewardship, and our rich history of the San Ramon Valley. And also include Parks Make Life Better beautification project. The second thing I did is I went along with the mayor last Friday to Walt Disney Elementary to attend the Arrow of Light ceremony, which is the highest award ceremony in Cub Scouting, and celebrates the Weeblos' completion of their journey and readiness to cross over to the Boy Scouts. And we had PAC 81, I think it was 841. And it was very interesting. I'm always proud to see these things going on because the parents, the teachers, everybody's involved in that transition. They actually had a bridge where these scouts would cross over. They would first have their scouting, designation taken off, and then they cross over and they meet. They decide on what Boy Scout troop they're going to go into. And so they have people on the other side of the bridge put on a new scarf, and they will have a new scouting life in the Boy Scouts. So it was just great to see that happen. There were a lot of, boys and girls, were both involved in that. And I was very impressed with that. And then the only other thing is today I did go to the State of the City address for Dublin, where Mayor Sherry Hu delivered that address, and that was kind of fun to see that and see how our sister nearby or sister city is doing. So that's all I have for you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilmember Schweinert, what's been going on?
Thank you, Mayor. February 11th, I attended the Community San Ramon Police Academy kickoff, and want to thank Chief Becky Chestnut and the staff at SRPD, along with our city staff, for maintaining this program. I don't know what year we're in, but every year, every time I attend these Academy kickoff presentations, it's always packed. So thank you to our police staff and volunteers. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, I attended the Daughters of American Revolution, their annual award ceremony, and we congratulated Montevideo Elementary School recipient Kyra Narang for a Constitution Week Poster Award. So congratulations to her and her family. It was a beautiful poster among other award recipients around the Bay Area, around the East Bay as well. On February 18th, I attended the Finance Committee along with Mayor Mark Armstrong. There we conducted business around the California Employers Benefit Trust. We discussed the PARS Pension Stabilization Trust. We also reviewed the Memorandum on Internal Control, which we asked Ms. Wakeman to come and present that to council. We also walked through the reserve workshop, preview of the reserve workshop and discussion, which will also be presented to council at a later date. And on February 12th, I attended the AI Foundry with Councilmember Veros. I have to tell you, it was an amazing event with like-minded people. I've never seen, I think I counted 52 in that photograph. That was amazing, 52 attendees. And we had presentation from a major player in the Bay Area tech space. So I wanted to thank you for bringing this together and people together, my first event. So I wanted to let you, talk more about it, maybe during your committee, your council review, or you can talk about it now. But I think it should be publicized more because we have so many great minds, and we had folks coming from Antioch, Livermore, and I think I met someone from San Rafael. So it was a great attendance. So thank you for that. But if you want to say something real quick about it, go ahead.
Return.
Oh, my turn?
No, I'm not done. But go ahead.
Oh, you got more.
Yeah, I got more, but I wanted to give him props for that.
Absolutely. We started the AI Foundry to make our San Ramon as a hub for artificial intelligence technology hub. So this is to bring entrepreneurs, founders, venture capitalists, educators, as well as students, all within our community, as well as across the East Bay together, so that they can start up their own organization, they can pitch their organization, and then they will have a space within San Ramon so that they can grow in San Ramon as a technology company. So that's the effort that we put. And thanks for joining, and everybody enjoyed your, everybody thinks that Councilmember Joynet is a lawyer, but actually he's a technologist, you know.
I'm a technologist,
When you
yeah.
said like Kubernetes, then I was like, oh, wow.
That was a good one. Okay.
Thank you for joining.
No, thank you. I can't wait to the next one. And then finally, I attended on February 19th, I attended the MCE board meeting in Concord. We were joined in by San Rafael and Napa counties, and we had a meeting vote there to reduce the rate, the billable rate. I want to mention something about MCE for a moment, if I may. This is more a comment and not a matters initiated. I want to take a moment to help residents better understand how our electricity structure works. So San Ramon, and MCE stands for Marin Clean Energy. So San Ramon participates in what's called Community Choice Aggregation Program, okay, or CCA. We do that through Marin Clean Energy. And under the structure, PG&E owns and operates the transmission and distribution and the infrastructure. So these are the poles, the wires, substations. They also manage the billing. MCE's role is limited in procuring the electricity generation portfolio on behalf of these communities. So we have other cities such as Alamo, Dublin, Pleasanton, you get it. And so when MCE offers renewable energy, what I learned was that that option refers to how electricity is procured and accounted for over time. The electricity that's delivered through the grid is physically mixed. So we have electrons that come in from greenhouse, wind, water, etc. These are mixed inside of the grid. So what you're actually receiving at your house, the output at your house, is not pure 100% renewable energy. I want to be clear on that, because I believe that we were receiving segregated electrons from a specific renewable facility, but that wasn't the case. And so I'd like, the option for customers to retain the right to opt out and return to PG&E's bundled service if they prefer. And I encourage residents to review their bills, understand the difference between generation and delivery charges, and make the choice that aligns with their preferences. So that's my comment on related to MCE. Regarding matters initiated, do you want us to wait? Or do you want us to wait till to the end, or raise it up now?
Let's get through the reports.
Okay, so that's my, thank you.
All right, let me go over to Councilmember Veros.
On Thursday 19th, I attended PG tour facilities along with the mayor and vice mayor. It was in our PG&E San Ramon. They shared all their hazard awareness facility, where they have this huge displays of all their equipment, how they are going to address if there is a disaster, and how they are going to address the fire situations and all that. So it's a very valuable as well as a lot of information learned tour. I hope they can do that for our community members. So I'll be reaching out, checking with them. And the other one is about the AI Foundry, which already Councilmember Joynet mentioned. The next one is we are working with our fire district to run a hackathon, the AI Foundry, on disaster recovery. So that is coming up. Fire district is, and also with our local other organizations like PG&E and other medical centers. So that, because most of the people, like when they are reaching out about the swarms of earthquakes that's happening, people keep asking how we can address it. So we want to see our residents and community members coming together and provide their thoughts and solutions at technology level as well as non-technical level. So that's going to happen pretty soon. I'll share the date. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Vice Mayor Rubio.
Thank you. So Wednesday, February 11th, I attended along with Mayor Armstrong, the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Innovation and Education presentation. As usual, I mean, they've really been really excelling despite the financial setbacks they've been experiencing. On Friday, February 13th, I attended the Innovation Tri-Valley meeting. Basically, they actually highlighted San Ramon in particular, really identifying it as a model business, having a sort of a model, a business model that is they really promote and are hoping to establish across the Tri-Valley and adjacent cities. In particular, they were highlighting how San Ramon's really becoming, they're trying to, it's really anticipated to become sort of a healthcare hub here in San Ramon, which would be great for all of our community members to have optimal healthcare readily accessible in their city. Also on Thursday, February 19th, I went to the County Connection meeting. I won't, the only really relevant thing, there was a couple of things. One was the BART workshop that was brought up, Alternative Services Framework. They covered the 3 phases that were initially expected. They discussed about going through, but it seems that BART's approach and to how they're going to solve this budget deficit problem and maintain operations is changing. So I will hold off on discussing that because it's still evolving. I think they're getting rid of phase 1 altogether. So then the other part that's really more relevant is the adoption of the transit corridor study for anyone who, does go through the Walnut Creek transportation there. There's been some updates there that were approved to improve efficiency and frequency of buses based on demand. And then on Thursday, February 19th, as was already mentioned, I also attended the PGE hazard tour with Mayor Armstrong and Councilmember Rose. So thank you.
Okay, I guess my turn here. I attended 3 transportation-related meetings. One was the Valley Link Board of Directors meeting. Of course, Valley Link is that rail project that's kind of a multi-phase project to cross over the Altamont Pass, eventually connect in with, go from BART to the ACE train station in Livermore, and then eventually out to Mountain House. Also attended a Innovate 680 meeting, and we had some discussion on some of the future projects on 680. One was an update on the different express lanes and progress on those. Another is the funding for the Bus on Shoulder program, which will start initially at Bollinger Canyon Road and then move up to Olympic Boulevard up in Walnut Creek. Also talked about coordinated adaptive ramp metering. That's also going to start at Bollinger and go up to Stone Valley, which should be hopefully delivered by the end of 2028. They will also be coming to do a briefing to us. At least they plan to do a briefing to us in the springtime sometime. And then the other board meeting I attended was a Contra Costa Transportation Authority board. Nothing significant there other than to say that we did approve the nominations for a new accessibility advisory committee, which will focus on not just all the interested stakeholders in terms of transit operators and things like that, but also seniors and those with mobility challenges and disabilities. So it's good to have a new committee to focus on that. It's actually a refresh of an older committee they already had. Some of the other things I did have already been mentioned, like the PG&E tour. On the 20th, I also attended a Veterans Resource Fair and Town Hall that was organized by Congressman DeSaulnier. Was able to kind of welcome the group. A lot of veterans attended that event, a lot of veteran service organizations that talked about the different resources they had for veterans and their families. And then a couple Lunar New Year celebrations, one with Councilmember Veros over at City Center on Sunday. Great. It's always a good event. And then also the Bay Valley Chinese School that put on a great Lunar New Year celebration over at Gale Ranch Middle School. So just some of the things going on. And then, as already mentioned, we've got a couple of events coming up Friday for the public safety preparedness event and then State of the City next week. But let me go back to Councilmember Wynett and see what you got to say on matters initiated.
Thanks, Mayor. So I want to agendize a discussion of amendments to the council rules of procedure. First, I'd like to schedule, if possible, closed session items prior to the regular open meeting when feasible. And the second, establish a 10 p.m. meeting conclusion policy under which the council completes the item under consideration and continues remaining items unless extended by a majority vote. I want to be clear here that the intent is to promote orderly governance, improve decision-making quality, but also provide predictability to the residents and the staff.
Alrighty, so that's a proposal to agendize those two items?
Yes.
Okay, we do have, okay. So I need direction from a majority of the council to put that on the agenda for discussion. Just making sure that I have it to prioritize closed session meetings prior to the council meeting when
Yes.
possible. And then also discuss a rule establishing a 10 p.m. Quote unquote hard stop.
Yes.
We can do those two standalone rules, correct? I'm just making sure that that's the,
Yes.
Yeah.
If we have council.
right. So we'll schedule an agenda item to talk about those two things. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
We'll get that as soon as we can. I'm not promising next meeting, but yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for a good, robust discussion this evening, and appreciate staff and all the public hanging in there. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So we need